Let's see. Yep, it's on MA. Why are you saying you're offline? Interesting. Maybe I need to research. Hello, everybody! If you're here, let us know that you're here.
Oh,
Let's
you literally clicked the button to go live?
Yeah, but the thing keeps saying offline, so I don't know where is it coming from? Is that coming from... Oh, that's coming from X, but not from Restream. As usual. What is going on, Restream?
As you were.
Okay, Restream has one. Okay. Which one is it, though? Why does it keep saying it's offline? Good Lord. If you're here, say what's up. Say what's up.
Say something.
Yeah, you put all that stuff on Chrome, right?
I don't know what you're asking me.
Hey, Applejack in this bitch. What's up, everybody?
He said he has a funny story.
All right.
Somebody called him a Trumper or something.
Who? Applejack? Oh, I know who that is. I know who that is. Salute. Okay, guys. Is it New Year's again already? Yeah, I know.
Another year.
Another year. No, this is us trying to chill out. We missed you, dummies. I don't know why this thing keeps saying offline, because we must be online. Go to what do you call it?
I'll tell you every time when I go, when you're shooting, I've come in before and I'm like, you're not online, and I don't know why I can't find it.
Been a minute since I made a live. Well, it's been a minute since we did a live. We're doing an Ask Us Anything. We will answer all of your questions. Yeah, that's weird. Like, it's not showing. So where are all these people coming from, though? It says they're on Restream. Where are you guys at? Where are you watching us from?
If you're watching from a YouTube spot, let us know which one of our channels you're coming in from, because there's a little bit of confusion on our side.
On our side.
On our side.
I should probably... I mean, I don't really need Safari anymore, I guess. But we'll see. We shall see. Yeah, guys.
Try anything.
Hold up, Gan. I got to get off this tablet and grab my jack. Okay, no sweat, no sweat, no sweat. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that's there. See, now look. See, it's
now
New
it's
Year.
Running.
That's
okay,
why they asked me about the New Year's Eve parties.
Oh, okay.
Because this is on the Vin and Story channel, not the Middle America channel.
Okay, so that's what we're doing.
So I've got to really figure out how to get this this thing working here. All right, so let me update these titles.
All right,
should
you guys.
we keep it on the Vin and Story, or should we do Middle America?
I mean, it's up to you. I mean, I think we're already here, so we should just do BNS. But
all right, we'll do it. We will do it. We'll do it that way, and I just got to remember to stay on Chrome instead of the other one.
Okay. All right, you guys. I'm gonna. Oh, let me just pull up Restream, then I'll be able to see you guys' comments. How was everybody's New Year? Did anybody make any New Year's resolutions?
Yeah.
If you did,
good question.
Fill me in, and tell me if you've passed or failed them already. Like sometimes people are already like, you know what? I was gonna go to the gym, but you know, it's 8 days into January. Have you gone yet?
That's weird. Applejack sees it on Middle America, though.
That's what I'm
so
saying.
Strange.
It's so weird because I'm over here on Middle America and there's no live stream going.
We'll figure it out, I think. Kai in this bitch.
Oh,
when does the
Kai sent a picture that you were busy when I got it.
When does the United States' special operation against Denmark start?
That's his. They took a family picture.
Oh wow, he's got a beautiful family. How did you convince
him and his mom?
Yeah.
I mean, him and his wife and the kids.
Oh, that's wifey right there, holding the camera?
No, I thought this was... No, that's his daughter. This is his wife back here.
Damn, I didn't know Kai was old enough to have a daughter like that. Damn, Kai.
I know, I was surprised. I thought the same thing when I clicked on it.
My New Year's resolution is try to keep my emotions in check. That's a good one. That's a very, very good one. That's a very good one. That's a very... insightful resolution, my boy.
Some self-control.
You know it. I'm about to go
Self-control. All right. You guys, the list is up on Patreon to let you guys know when the upcoming streams are.
Yes, the upcoming streams will be available.
Yeah, they added a thing so you can see how many people like look at it, and 51 people have already seen that list.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
Good.
51 as
I do not believe that the special forces are going to get sent to Denmark.
he said it's not live.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
It'll be live in about 2 minutes.
Okay. Are you
2
you're
seconds.
doing both?
Yeah, I'm doing all three actually. We're on
okay.
Twitter. We're on Twitter,
But
and
no Rumble.
No Rumble.
Okay.
Okay, guys.
My resolution is not to go backwards in life. Yeah, you know what?
I'm with that, bro.
Yeah, I think that going backwards in life is funny because sometimes when you're not, like, if you're not actively going forward, you think that you're staying stationary, but then all of a sudden it feels like you wake up and you're like, oh, I went backwards.
Yeah.
Have you checked out Wesley Huff and Joe Rogan yet?
No, I haven't.
Who's
I saw
Wesley
that
Huff?
was the dude. Remember that Billy Carson guy, that fraud?
Oh, yeah.
So Huff now got a Joe Rogan spot because
He
of
did?
it. Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
apparently he was doing some like hardcore Jesus rose from the dead stuff, challenging Rogan. So
Cool.
that was pretty cool. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Like the Post Mills are sitting pretty right now.
JB, what's up?
We're sitting pretty right now.
Yeah. Well,
For sure.
For sure.
For sure. Shout out to fraudster in chief Billy Carson. Don't sue me, nigga. Don't sue me. But you are a fraud though, man. For real. I have seen y'all since before Christmas. Yeah, man. That's why we have decided to return.
Oh my gosh, seriously, we got the flu here.
Oh my
and
god.
it was
God.
insane. Insane. When you have like so many people in the same like spot.
And then freaking Johan, man, that nigga's gonna inherit the earth, man. He
Yeah,
never
Johan's
gets
the
sick,
only,
bro.
he never gets sick. Everybody else in the house gets
Never
sick.
gets
He
sick.
just keeps right on going.
Yeah, we'd be in a zombie apocalypse. Johan will get bit all the shreds by the zombie. It won't even mean
He's
nothing.
still going.
It won't mean a damn thing. The Nazis. The zombies are like, oh shit, get away, get away.
Yeah.
He'd be out here trolling like, oh. He'd be like, oh. He'd be like, no, Luke, he's bitten. We gotta shoot him. He'd be like, just kidding, I'm fine. You know, it's Johan. Like, why'd you shoot me, nigga?
Oh my gosh.
Why'd you shoot me? Yeah, shout out to Lost Hate as well. My resolution not to go backwards. Amen. Nice to meet you. Happy New Year's. What's up, Christian Case? Gang.
Hello. Yep. One of the kids got sick and they made it to the trash can, so I was very happy about that. But the trash can did not have a bag in it. Well, I was so sick I could almost not stand upright at the time. So I thought, you know what? We're gonna take care of that later. And I took the trash can and I just stuck it in the tub so we could get it later.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Everybody just pushed that trash can around. I ended up emptying the trash can yesterday. No joke. I pulled the bag out of there. I was like, are you friggin' serious? This wall of nasty smell hit me. I was like, oh, what is wrong with our kids? As if they just put a bag over that. So, yeah, I cleaned that.
I tell you I hate them kids, man. I tell you I hate you, I mean it.
I mean, to be fair,
gave you a
though,
chore, just
the
clean
little kids got sick
these
a
grapes
lot,
are
and our
trash.
big kids really. I
These
know I
grapes
can't. I'm
are
not.
trash.
You know, when you do DoorDash for not DoorDash but Instacart, you got to just trust that platinum shopper to shop platinum, and they don't always do so.
Here is my AMA question: Is jipping off Polish migrants from building your lavish hotel worse than withholding freedom from innocent death row fighters / inmates? Yeah, I would say that withholding freedom from a human being on false premises and not allowing exculpatory evidence to be weighed would be orders of magnitude worse than being a dishonest businessman. I think destroying somebody's life and smiling with glee as you destroy a person's life is infinitely worse than bad business practices. You shouldn't be a bad business practitioner. You should be honest. The scripture says you shall have a just hin and an honest ephah. But my God, to compare the two to me is even crazy.
What's going on with can you give me the backdrop of that? What's going on with this?
Well, Applejack was talking about how Kamala, who is the person I just described, who withheld exculpatory evidence from a man on death row, and then smiled when he was sentenced, and this person was black, by the way, and he had to get rescued by the white journalist at the Wall Street Journal. The white journalist at the Wall Street Journal had to rescue this black dude from Kamala Harris.
That's wild.
And we know that Trump hasn't necessarily been the most honest in his business dealings, and so Applejack had the audacity to say that what Kamala has done on the planet is orders of magnitude worse than what Trump has done.
Yeah.
Then somebody falsely accuses Applejack of saying that equals an endorsement for Trump. Because this individual can only think in a binary as if those are the only options. A person could say one is worse than the other and they're both bad, therefore I'm not going to vote for them. Or one could say there are more than two parties in America, therefore I'm going to vote for the other person, but these two are bad, but this one is worse. There's a whole range of things that you could say to make that syllogism work without a ringing endorsement of Trump. But this person just went right to, you're supporting Trump, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's where we are.
Okay, all right.
That's where we are.
Yeah, I mean...
Thanks for reviewing Bad Religion. I appreciate you. Thank you. Be at war with your vices, at peace with your neighbors, and let every new year find you a better man. That's good.
That's good.
That's very good. I bought a new weight set, and I was watching what I ate yesterday, my 43rd birthday. I picked out and did today as well. I mean...
did today as well. You know what? Well... I don't know why it's so funny to hear people just blowing it like that.
Just the honesty, I love it.
Yep.
And then the screw face, look. Look right there.
Yep.
We have human beings in our channel.
Yep. You know what?
None of this fake poser stuff y'all be doing on the internet.
Sometimes, like, when you're like, okay, I'm gonna be healthier, and you get, like, overly conscious about it, it, like, turns on that junk food thing. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not thinking about it, you'd probably just be like, no, let me grab this. But, like, once you start thinking about it, then you're like, let me eat this. Let me eat that. Let me eat that.
Used to stay stogie, but now you say cigarette. Rock from Italy, Africa to Sicily. Do you think Biden's choices for the Medal of Freedom were good choices?
What happened? Update me.
I'm pretty sure he had Liz Cheney, Hillary Clinton, and
Who
George
got
Soros.
married on Sunday?
Folks got married on Sunday? Hey, my boy!
Did he?
Yeah, it's my favorite Jew, bro. Hey, Mazel Tov, my guy.
Congratulations.
Gang, gang, gang. That's good, bro. That's
Be
good.
fruitful and multiply.
Yeah, Adar is almost there. That's a very right-wing thing to do there, Mr. Adar. Committing to that girl. He's almost complete. All I need is one pledge to Jesus of Nazareth, and then
we dunking you.
Adar is complete. Yeah, so I think it was George Soros, Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton got a Medal of Freedom. And who else did I mention got the medal? And Cheney. Dick Cheney's the dude that lied us all into a war and made us kill innocent people and completely destroyed.
Got Medal of Freedom?
Yeah, they got the Congressional Medal of Freedom. Is Elon Musk the new George Soros? I don't think so. I think that Elon Musk is a completely different animal, and I actually do not believe that we have seen an Elon Musk yet. In the same way that in Germany, nobody had known what a Hitler was, right? There was no historical thing to compare him to, and then he became the person everybody compares history to. And I think that's what's going on with Elon. And Trump, by the way, for better or worse. I think that these are singular characters in history that are going to dominate our thought processes for a long time. And I'm not saying that's all positive or all negative. I just think that that's where we're at. I'm learning
Gaelic?
Gaelic. He might be saying that, Gaelic or Gaelish or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Whoa, good for you. If I learn anything, it's going to be Spanish. It would actually be very helpful. You kind of run into a lot of Spanish around.
Obviously, I do not believe that Hillary Clinton should win the Medal of Freedom for anything positive. George Soros, to be honest with you, I do not know much about. I know
Lost hate I didn't know. Thank you.
I know that George Soros has funded a lot of Democrat or blue or left-wing, candidates or whatever. But I don't believe that George Soros is the demon that the right wing claims about him. The guy's a multi-quadrillionaire, and he invests in political parties that he agrees with. So I never really understood the Soros stuff. It's like, well, if you're mad at George Soros, all you have to do is get money out of politics, right?
Wow.
I mean, I understand he looks like, Emperor Paladin or whatever, like the bad guy in wow. What do you call it, Star Wars?
Yeah.
But I don't have a unique problem with George Soros. I would understand why Biden would give him that, considering how much this dude is balled out for the Democrat Party.
It says George Soros is an American investor and philanthropist. As of October 2023, he had a net worth of $6.7 billion, having donated more than $32 billion to the Open Society foundations, of which $15 billion has already been distributed, representing 64% of his original fortune. That's crazy. I don't know anything about this guy, but what's the Open Society foundations?
That's his foundation. They fund money and they support people and all. Just like Elon gave like $117 million to Trump's campaign, and you had folks complain about it. It's like these guys are giving billions and billions and billions of dollars, right? So like, if I was a Democrat, the Soros Medal of Freedom thing makes a lot of sense. I understand it, and there's a sense in which you'd have to say, absolutely, he's earned it from a Democrat side. Obviously, Republicans don't like Mr. Soros, but I don't really...
And why don't Republicans like him?
Because he's using his billions to fund...
The Democratic Party?
The Democratic Party.
Oh, okay. Who would you give the Medal of Freedom to? How many Medal of Freedoms did we pass out? 3?
No.
Wait, what do we do? Do we pass them out every year, or how does this work?
It's usually when the president's on the way out.
Then the president passes out. Okay, and they pass out how many? As many as they want?
I guess. I mean, Obama gave one to Biden. Gave him the Medal of Freedom. So, it's.
Is it basically?
It's like the Medal of Honor. It's like the Medal of Honor.
And you can give it for any reason. It's just you want to exalt this person. And
you're the president. You'd say who's,
You want to honor this person?
Yeah.
Okay, so they honored him because he funded a lot to the Democratic Party?
Yeah.
Seems like, wouldn't it be great if that medal went to, like, whoever saved the most lives?
Well, that's part of the logic, right? If you're in a political party, you believe that your party's better for the quality of life and existence of life of people over and against the other party. Otherwise, you'd be in the other party. So when he does that, all of that's being included. Like I said, I don't know much about him. But I mean, I always respect people who put their money where their mouth is. And I get it. He's got $6 billion that he cannot spend for the rest of his life. I get that. But for him to give $32 billion of his own dollars, I mean, that's pretty significant in my view. And like I said, if I was in that world, then yeah, you'd have to, it makes a lot of sense. The Cheney thing makes no sense to me. And the Hillary... Okay, so I would say I'm against Hillary getting the Medal of Freedom. Especially, like, what did Hillary Clinton do during Joe Biden's time in office to even do that. So I'm totally against the Hillary thing. Soros, I understand. And
wait a minute.
Cheney, I could also understand, but I don't necessarily agree with. Miss Cheney went up against the Republican machine when she was working to hold Trump accountable for the January 6th stuff. Now, it appears that she was doing some fluky shit, and that might come back to bite her. But it might be they're setting up Miss Cheney as a Medal of Freedom winner or whatever, so that Biden can do like a preemptive pardon of her because Trump and his folks are going after her. So,
shouldn't this freedom thing be given to people born in America, though?
That's not necessary.
Just American citizens.
It doesn't give you any constitutional power. Like, it doesn't give you any power, but it is an honor. You know what I'm saying? So
this guy, I don't know anything about this guy. I'm getting from the room that there's a lot of negative kind of attached to this guy. But like, if I'm reading this right, he has a net worth of $6.7 billion. He donated $32 billion. So if he didn't donate that money, he would have been worth $38.7 billion.
Well, and then you got to think about he'd have investments and other things like that, right? Because those guys get money exponentially. So he'd probably be at $100 billion. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not a fan of his policies, obviously, but for a Democratic president, it makes a lot of sense that you would give this guy the Medal of Freedom.
Yeah, that's a lot.
There's no outcry about it. They just asked me what I thought. Yeah. So I think Hillary makes absolutely no sense. Soros makes a lot of sense. And then Cheney to me is just political, I think. I think he's setting that up to justify giving her a pardon because Mr. Trump has promised to go after her. I've heard Trump may come to be the Antichrist. What do you guys think? Yeah, I look, if there's any candidate for Antichrist from the Left Behind perspective, and I'm not,
especially that he got shot at from the wound to
the wound to the head, correct? Sadaka, and then everybody started rocking it.
Yeah,
I don't believe that there's a coming Antichrist.
Hunter, we just started basically.
I don't believe that there's a coming Antichrist, but if you're operating from the template of the Antichrist and all that, then absolutely, like,
you could see how they'd get there from there.
Because the Antichrist is a deceiver, and he combines politics with religion. That's why you have the Antichrist, and you have the beast and the false prophet. So the beast is a geopolitical leader, and the false prophet is a religious leader. And so when you look at the absolute devotion that Trump's supporters have, and the fact that a lot of them are religious, if Trump turned out to be the Antichrist, I think a lot of religious people would be blindsided by it, which is kind of the MO of the Antichrist, right? You're not supposed to know who he is. He's supposed to be like the most expert deceiver of all time. So, yeah, the blind loyalty that a lot of my evangelical friends have toward Trump and Elon. I mean, I've been telling folks, like, yo, even before this whole thing started, when they announced the Doge thing and I saw that it was serious, I messaged probably my most right-wing conspiracy theory guy friend in the world, and I said, man, watch that dude, bro. Like, we didn't elect dude. You know what I'm saying? Elon is not an elected individual. So now he's at the top of this government thing that has real consequences. And there's no way to constitutionally keep it in check because he's got a position that's not articulated in the scripture. I mean, in the Constitution. I think that opens us up for a lot of danger, and the fact the guy's not an American citizen. So whether or not he's loyal to our country, we've now set the precedent that a foreigner, if he has a lot of money, can make himself adjacent to American power, and then he gets to have inordinate influence over our government. So even if Elon is clean, quote unquote, we're setting up the American people to accept people who are not from our country having the ability to directly influence not elections but legislation. And if you can't see how that would be problematic to say the least, then okay.
I think
do it. Stick it to the libs, whatever you want to call it, man.
I'm sure that there are like bigger issues here, but I'm not familiar with all of them. I know like just the stuff, a lot of times the stuff that my kids are like, hey, what about this? And like for me, the whole Ye taking a picture of him and putting it up, and then him like responding by blocking him, or like taking, what did he took away his check, or he blocked him from X.
Oh, he just took away his blue check mark. Yeah. Yeah,
just like that engagement was like level petty, like it was high. The petty level was high, and I was like, I thought that was a bad sign. Like if somebody has like a lot of power and they also are very petty, like that's not a good combination. And then this guy is in a place where he shouldn't be. We haven't elected him in there. I'm not a fan of that. Like if there's certain people when you see like the deep character and stuff like that, but that sort of reaction over a picture, I don't know. That's as far as I'll say, because I don't want to overdo it here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Thanks for the Chupa Chat, Applejack. Every time you hear people call Elon the president, do you think to yourself, more proof people don't think for themselves and let TV do their thinking? I mean, to me, when I hear President Elon, I just automatically go back to. I just assume that it's a psychological operation from weaker political forces to try to foment some discord between Trump and Elon, so that you can have a sort of MAGA civil war, which of course was slightly accomplished by the visa thing. But I don't really think the visa thing is going to be a real problem for Republicans. Or for Republicans in power. But relative to Elon Musk, I have found that neither right-wingers or left-wingers have an independent opinion of the man. Left-wingers 2 or 3 years ago were writing columns about how Elon Musk was going to save the world and the planet and all the rest of it. And then he bought X and wouldn't allow for the censorship, and immediately the media turned on him. And I'm sorry, guys, but the left dutifully went with the media and immediately changed their emotions. The flip on Elon was one of the most terrifying things to me.
I'm testing some things.
The Elon flip by people that were loving him and all that, and the way that they immediately flipped on him was very, very concerning to me. I was like, damn, these people can turn people very, very quickly. But then on the right, where right-wingers are constitutional and what about this, what about that, for there not to be a backlash in the right as far as Elon on the Doge situation and how much influence he's having when he was never elected. He was not even put on the platform. It'd be another thing if he said, look, I'm going to work with Elon and the platform, blah blah blah. Tell us beforehand. But now you're elected, and now you got like this extremely powerful, very intelligent individual who is not an American, and now we got this. So I think both groups have a big problem with thinking for themselves.
Why isn't it working?
Why isn't what working? Oh, I was supposed to do that
this
thing.
I can do this. Oh, and the hearts come.
Yeah, I mean,
but there's a whole list of them.
We'll probably wait for the update, babe. You know what I'm saying? Good. Anyone who ignores the way Musk is pushing himself into government dealings is choosing to be. Yeah. Like, I'm not a big fan of like, we're going to demonize Elon Musk or whatever for allowing Twitter to be an actual free speech environment. I was to be honest with you, like, there's not a lot of things that scare me, but the ability for the media to change someone's identity that quickly is amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. The same thing happened with Ukraine. All these left-wing outlets for years were writing about Ukraine has a Nazi problem, blah, 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 blah. And then as soon as this stuff's popped off, because we got to go back to our Russophobia and we got to go to our Russo hatred, we're going to say, oh, look at this, and we're going to galvanize the Ukrainians, and anything the Ukrainians do is fine, you know, like, the ability for people's minds to just be completely co-opted by the media in an environment where people are starting to distrust the media is very fascinating to me. Very, very fascinating to me. Holy shit, another super chat. You haven't missed a thing. The thing is, you know, I spend long nights reporting on obscure and hidden political items. It gets annoying when corporate news calls. When corporate news, well, yeah. I mean,
thanks for the super chat.
Corporate news calls someone something, and literally every independent thinker parent. Yeah, I agree. I agree, and I'm sorry. Like it usually happens on the blue side. I think it's worse than annoying. I think it's terrifying when you have an environment now. We've got AI and deepfakes and all that, and you got people that are completely tribalized and have all of this like confirmation bias and want to see the worst in their interlocutors. Man, it's a recipe for, you know, mind control operates in a lot of different ways. And the minute you say mind control, people start going, oh, you're a tinfoil, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like there are ways to control people's minds. Mm-hmm. It's not a governmental appointment. It's just a glorified advisory board. We've had many of them before. It holds no actual constitutional power. Bro, I understand that it doesn't hold actual constitutional power. That's my problem. If it held actual constitutional power, we'd be able to go after him within the constraints of the Constitution. I don't even want Elon Musk advising the top members of our cabinet. And secondly, Elon is doing more. I mean, he was part of the threatened shutdown and things of that nature. Like he's not just consulting. And the other thing too,
he was part of the threatened shutdown.
Yeah, we almost shut down the government, all the rest of it.
Oh,
but the other thing like about him is that I don't care what people say, he's gonna be the smartest person in the room wherever he is. And so I'm not a fan, just as a principle, as an American. And look, I wasn't born here. So I don't want me to have any of that influence either. Because I don't want the precedent to be set. It's so fascinating to me what people will accept and what they won't. I think that if Vivek was the sole member of Doge and not Elon, then Republicans would be like, wait a second, this guy's not like, what are we doing here? But because Elon fits a certain phenotypical presentation, it's okay for those people. And I just think, I don't know, man.
That's an interesting point.
That looks to me like it could go real bad. Real bad.
Mm-hmm.
Homie is ready for the coming jihad, apparently. Jihad. Zuckerberg admitted censorship was him admitting election interference. Yeah, our social media tech guys absolutely interfered with the elections in 2020.
He admitted to it?
Yeah, he admitted. That's why he did the whole mea culpa thing, for sure. Yeah, they absolutely did that. The Biden laptop thing, that was clear. That was obvious. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that one, Hoyle. That's absolutely what they did. And he came out and did a mea culpa because these people are pretty good about understanding the ramifications of their actions. Yeah, people are scared and they're leaderless, and I think that they have a right to be afraid, to be honest with you. You've got all these drones flying around in restricted airspaces. You've got no explanation coming from our government. Mm-hmm. All the people that told us, oh, Biden's fine. Every single person right now is like, what the hell is going on? And then we got this guy. We've got Biden, God bless him. But we got Biden in office, and we know that if there's a real threat with these drones or whatever the hell those things are, all of us know that he's not going to have the capability to do anything really as a governor. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
It bees like that sometime. Let me see. More questions. Let's see. 10 Ted Cruz was born in Canada and ran for president. Holy smoke, I didn't know that. Really? Is Twitter a free speech environment? He bans those who criticize him. Well, I need an example of that. I mean, he didn't ban Jake Shields. He just took away his blue check, which he never guaranteed. It's
not free speech. It's
free speech, not free reach. Right. And by the way, I still don't think those are good optics.
Here. This one's
no, I don't. I just want it away from the computer. Okay. I still think that those are terrible optics on Elon's part, but he was not really suppressing his speech. I mean, Twitter used to shadow ban you. They would literally ban you. They would put you in an algorithm hellscape. Like, you can't compare the two. But it definitely shows that, you know, he is used to making unilateral decisions to get what he wants. He doesn't know how to convince people of things. It just looks like he's like, look, I'm the boss. I have the money. So boom, this is your punishment. There's not going to be a lot of recourse.
Yeah.
But I don't. I mean, when you're the richest person in the world, I don't know how you would have any other mentality. Thoughts on Greenland? I think Greenland is of pretty strategic importance to us. Especially, there is a sense in which it can end a lot of the saber rattling with China. And so, I'm all for it. If we can have a bloodless sort of absorption of Greenland, that would be mint in my opinion.
Is that what we're trying to do? It's part of Denmark right now.
Mm-hmm.
And what are we doing? Are we trying to get it?
Yeah.
And try to make it, wow,
an American territory like Guam or, you know, PR or whatever. Yeah. Honestly, I wish it was just Vivek. He's an economics student of Rothbard and Mises. Elon definitely has ulterior global and multiplanetary motive.
Yeah,
Mars first is pretty far from America. Yeah. Yeah, and I admire him for that kind of vision. I really do. I respect him. I'm not mad at him. Like, he's gonna do what he's gonna do. I'm just saying, like, I'm very surprised at how quickly people on the right wing are okay with his proximity
him being
to
so
power.
Close. Yeah. And it started right off.
Yeah. I don't know if they would have the Greenlanders' interests at heart. He almost certainly does not have the Greenlanders' interests at heart. He didn't care about them. He's America first, Mr. Trump. So that's not even a question. That's not even a question. But again, I don't think that we need to send any operators to invade Greenland to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hate to say it, but I just honestly think that the world, especially the Western world, is so dependent on us that, I mean, especially after in a post-COVID global environment, I don't really know how much resistance those people would really be able to put up anyway in the first place.
Is this
and if you look at Puerto Rico, look at Puerto Rico. If a horrible hurricane happens in Puerto Rico, we're obligated to help them. If the Dominicans and the Cubans decide they want to do something reckless with Puerto Rico, we're going to help them. Mm-hmm. So both countries get they get a seat at the table in a sense. Can we celebrate the fall of Trudeau? Yeah. Shout out to the big homie Jussie 2 times. Shout out to Mr. Justin Trudeau, who showed up in blackface twice.
Oh my gosh.
Shout out to Mr. Trudeau, who declared economic warfare on his own citizenry for having the audacity to protest. People were talking about fascism this, fascism that. There's only one Western power in the Americas where the leader punished people financially because of their speech. So, thank you very much, Jussie 2 times. I cannot tell you how happy I am that happened.
Do we have we have a military base over in Greenland?
Say again?
We have a military base in Greenland?
We have military bases everywhere.
Oh, everywhere. Okay, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, all of our friends. See, that's the thing. You know, it's like bread and bullets, right? We give all this money to all these people, but we've got the rest of the world at gunpoint too. So, yeah, it's pretty terrible. That Jake guy is a brain dead monkey. Listen to Apostate Prophet.
Which Jake guy? Who's Jake?
He's talking about my friend, the Muslim metaphysician.
Oh no.
I do listen to Apostate Prophet, but I have a lot more in common with Jake because Jake is a religious man who takes his religion seriously. I don't have a lot in common with Apostate Prophet because he's an atheist and he's not a believer. I disagree with Islam as a religion, but I do not agree with mocking Islam as a religion. There's 1.7 billion people that follow that religion, and so I think if we disagree with it, we have to disagree with it respectfully. Because I'm trying to win people.
Is there no example in the New Testament where an idea was mocked? Another religious idea was mocked?
What do you mean?
In the New Testament. I can't think of any examples, but I'm just seeing if you can.
No. Yeah. I mean, when Paul went to the Areopagus, he didn't say, you guys are dumb, blah, 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 blah. I mean, he ended up saying, like, these are false gods.
Yeah.
And I would say the same thing. Like, the law of the Quran is a false god. But Apostate Prophet and David Wood and those guys go out, in my opinion, go way too far in mocking Islam. And Apostate Prophet is an atheist. So if you've got an atheist that's mocking in the same kind of tone as you,
oh, yeah.
That should give you a clue.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
We're Christians.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the UK sexual abuse scandal?
Oh, no,
yeah.
what happened?
Well, we did a show on this about a year ago with these grooming gangs.
Yeah.
And now more information is coming out where these girls, it's just brutal stuff. And I'm gonna do a video on it eventually. But yeah, it's coming out and it's absolutely heartbreaking what has happened over there.
And this is because they opened it up?
Yeah, it's these South Asian grooming gangs, man. And they go out there and they're assaulting.
They legalize prostitution over there, or what initiated this? What's going?
These are immigrants from Pakistan mostly.
Okay.
And in Islam, there is a version of Islam that says that the women of the kuffar are food. They're halal. And so these guys are running around sexually assaulting these girls and nothing is happening to them. And then the people that complain about it, they're the ones that are getting... And so there were more stuff that just came out and it's horrible. It's really, really horrible stuff. Girls are getting raped. People knew they were getting raped. Nothing was done. All types of crazy shit.
They've trapped these girls somewhere, or like girls are just going to the market and they just get grabbed and like what's
Well, yeah,
what's happening?
it's the grooming gang stuff in the UK.
Yeah,
we did a whole show on it.
Right. All right. Remind me.
Remember the girl went into the police station to report that she got raped and they sent her home, and the guy that took her home.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
There was another expose on it, and it was horrible. And a lot of it has to do with the political stuff because the people that are doing the assaulting are Pakistanis. You know, they're Asian, and so it's like, hey, we're the UK. We invite immigrants. Blah 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 type of thing. And if you complained about it, you were racist. Blah blah blah. You face jail time. All type of craziness. Here we go. Well, then Elijah mocked the prophets of Baal, so I don't see why we shouldn't mock Islam.
That's why the Old Testament had a death penalty for raping women.
People always do that. There's one episode in the entire Bible.
This one...
Now, hold on. There's one episode in the... Stop. There's one episode of... This is an important point. There is one episode in the entire Bible where somebody does that. Mm-hmm. And so instead of saying that is a severe exception to the rule, people try to appeal to that as the rule and then say, now we get to mock Islam. Well then, why didn't Paul, Peter, John, and the rest of those people do that when they were engaging with their interlocutors in the New Testament? Because Elijah was a specific person. B, here's something very interesting. The fact that Elijah mocked those gods, watch this, does not mean he was righteous for doing so. After Elijah had that incident, he ran away, and then he told God, just kill me here, I'm no better than my fathers. Was that right? Should we put that and say, hey, Elijah, he was suicidal, so it's good to be suicidal? I would say Elijah is a great prophet, but he's still a human being. That's what I would say. And so the idea that because he mocked those people, that's something we should follow is crazy to me. How comes Jesus didn't do it then? Secondly, if you have the type of faith that can call down fire from heaven, then you can go ahead and mock people. But until you've done that, then you can't appeal to Elijah. I think that's such a terrible, terrible argument. I mean, I love you, Ian. I just think it's a dumb argument, to be honest with you. We're taking something that happened one time, and then we're assuming that when he was doing it, he was righteous for doing so. The scripture never says, and Elijah was righteous for mocking them. Never says that.
I think sometimes people start mocking because, obviously Elijah is a different scenario, but I think sometimes, like in modern day, when people mock, it's because they lack the information to be able to argue the points. And so just laughing like, oh, that's ridiculous, instead of, and also the understanding that because we're all human beings, nobody likes to be mocked. And if you have a bad idea or a bad theology and you need to come out of that bad thinking, like how many people have ever been motivated because somebody mocked them out of their way of thinking? Like usually it's when, somebody comes around you and says, hey, here, let me show you the truth. Isn't there a verse that talks about like that we're supposed to present the truth with like love or like kindness or something like that?
Yeah.
What is it? What is that verse?
Hunter, what you said was, well, then Elijah mocked the prophets of Baal, so I don't see why we shouldn't mock Islam. What are you talking about? I never said we should mock Islam.
Ian, I think you're confusing Hunter and I.
Yeah. My bad. That was Hunter. No, well, again, Hunter, I think that's ridiculous. I think, look, why are you just isolating the fact that he mocked the prophets of Baal? The next thing he did was he executed them all. So should we execute people who follow Islam too, to follow that logical construction? I really need you to answer that question. Because after he got done mocking them, and then God sent the lightning from heaven, Elijah executed all those people. So are you saying that we should be able to execute the purveyors of Islam? And if not, why not? Vin, what are you reading right now? And why are you not reading Hyperion? I am actually reading this book about peer-reviewed clinical near-death experiences, and they're extremely fascinating. Extremely fascinating stuff. So that's what I'm reading on right now. Greenland doesn't want to belong to Denmark. I don't think they want to belong to the U.S. either. Yeah, but I don't know if the Greenlandians want to be like completely autonomous and independent. I mean, we'll see. Super Jack from Applejack says, America is racist. They elected Trump. We needed a civil rights fighter like Biden to win, or Kamala, so we could have India back us. Right. A very non-racist person like Biden who went into a black space and said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. A very non-racist person who supported segregation because he didn't want his kids to grow up in a racial jungle. A very, very warm person who, as he was pitching the crime bill, was talking about how we were predators and how he was going to give us a death penalty for jaywalking, and how he understands that there are societal conditions that these kids couldn't control that turned them into what they are, and we can figure that out while they're behind bars, etc., etc. This same person just pardoned his son for crimes, while black people that he put in jail for non-violent crimes who are staying in there for 40 years are still in prison. I'm good with Mr. Biden. I'm very good with Mr. Biden. Of course not. Then I believe in Christ-like and exhibiting fruits of the Spirit and engaging in constructive conversation with anyone who is respectful. Hold on. Well, so for you, you're then being inconsistent. because you're appealing to an episode where Elijah mocked the prophets of Baal when God never said that that was a good thing to do. And you want to apply that and say we should have we should be able to do that. But then the thing that he did 2 minutes after that, you're saying, of course not. That's inconsistent. Appealing to Elijah to be a dick to your interlocutors is a bad argument. Elijah was a man with feet of clay. There's nothing in the text that says he was right for mocking the prophets of Baal. Nowhere.
Okay, so here's a couple of verses. Matthew 22:39, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Obviously, nobody wants to be mocked. So if you don't want to be mocked, why would you want to mock somebody else? Another one is 1 Peter 3:15 and 16. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience. So part of the way that we keep a clear conscience is that when we talk to other people and we're talking about the reason why we have a hope, we're talking about our God, is that we're going to do it in a way that's respectable and loving toward other people. And then here's another one. This is Proverbs. It says, whoever derides their neighbor has no sense, but the one who has understanding holds their tongue. So like mocking people, I mean, like,
obviously Elijah was not in a mentally stable condition. The next day he wanted to kill himself. What are we talking about here? I'm sorry, but this is kind of like an unskilled reading of the Old Testament, where the heroes are heroes all the time. That's not the point of the Old Testament. The Old Testament is not there to present these Bible figures as like flawless heroes. The Old Testament presents these people as great people of God who still have feet of clay. One time Moses told God, leave me alone, let me die in the wilderness. I didn't give birth to these people. You gave birth to them. I'm staying over here. I'm done with you. I'm done with them. Leave me alone. I don't think that we should be telling people, yeah, that's what you should say to God. What I do think is, if you end up in a situation of that despair, you can say, hey, don't feel bad. You can repent of that. Look, even Moses went through it. So, appealing to Elijah's mockery of the prophets to me is one of the weakest, honestly, silliest. There's literally nothing else in that episode that people who appeal to that passage can replicate.
I know, yeah.
Nothing!
We can't call down fire from heaven.
Well, forget even calling down fire from heaven, even creating the challenge. Look, when you create a challenge like that, and you say, all right, come on, everybody. When you do that and you pull that off, go ahead and mock them. Otherwise, you can't just extract the mockery and leave the executions, the suicide, the challenge itself, the supernatural ramifications of we're going to leave all of that and say that's for that time period, but we're going to take the mockery and say, yes, this is what we should do. Mm-hmm. We got to grow up. We got to grow up. That's a terrible, terrible, terrible argument.
And the other thing, too, the New Testament says that they'll know that we're Christians by our love. And, again, mocking somebody is not a loving way to talk to somebody or treat somebody.
And look,
and a million
the reason I'm so passionate about it is because, look, the Lord has blessed me, apparently, as a great debater. Okay, I was watching one of those things yesterday, and I was, like, kind of cringing. I was like, you could have been a little bit more gentle there, Vinny. So, look, the reason I'm so passionate about it is because these are the things that the Lord has gone after me with. Like, I'll watch some of my shit. I'm like, I wasn't. I'm like, well, Elijah, you know. And God be like, man, would you be quiet? You're not Elijah. You weren't in the spirit of Elijah. Just be quiet.
You've been through this. That's why.
Of course. Because I'm the one out there debating these people in front of thousands of people. You see what I'm saying? So, that's coming from my relationship with God. Mm-hmm. Like, look, if you're the kind of person that's going to create a challenge like that has the faith to create a challenge like that, and by the way, he was risking his life when he was doing that because this woman was killing all the prophets, and he was like the last main guy. Mm-hmm. So if you go into the middle of Saudi Arabia and say, your prophet Muhammad was a false prophet who had sex with a 9-year-old girl, and let's do a test right now. You show up and call on Allah, I'll show up and call on Jesus, and whoever has the lightning bolt first wins. If you go into the heart of Saudi Arabia and do that, and you start mocking them people, go for it. You're like Elijah.
I don't believe that you'll even
But
get
you're
to
not
the
gonna do
challenge
that.
before your body hits the ground.
You're not gonna do that. So why are you trying to pick this one part from the episode and say we can apply it now? Come on, man. I love you, I do, but you're completely wrong.
I have a specific question for you, sorry. Oh, okay.
You don't need to be sorry to me. You don't need to be sorry to me. I just like I said, it's something that that I have to deal with. I have a specific question for you, Sorry. When you were in your darkest hour in your depression, other than God, Vin, and the kids, what did you cling on to keep going?
I don't think that I did, because I felt like I couldn't cling on to anything. I kept feeling like I was suspended in the middle of a black hole. So I didn't feel like I could cling to anything. I felt like I couldn't actually hold on to anything. Now that I'm on the other side of that, I look back and I'm like, I was suspended in the middle of the black hole because God was holding me. So I wasn't being sucked in and but at the time when I was in that darkness, like I didn't even feel like the suspension of God holding me. Like I just felt just completely lost, and it was very, very dark. It was very long. But yeah, like I think that, yeah, I almost felt like I was just I kept telling myself, there was this little cartoon when I was a kid. I think it was a Christmas one. And it was done with these like claymation, and there was like this bad character, and he was talking to the other one, and he was telling him just put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking through the door. And it was a song that he did, and I always liked that scene because it was a very very cold character, and as he began to walk and love filled his heart, like he came back and he was like happy. I loved that scene as a kid, and I kept hearing that part where it was like just put one foot in front of the other, and I felt like that's basically what I was doing. Like just I wasn't clinging on to anything. There wasn't like music really couldn't help me. I would try to go for walks. Nothing really seemed to, like a walk might help me a little bit, but not really. Like it was a really, really, really dark time. So yeah, not really anything. Even reading the Bible wasn't really helping me either. It almost seemed like when I would sit down to read, it was confusing to me. I couldn't remember.
I remember that.
I couldn't remember any of the verses that I had read before. Like Vin would talk about verses, and I couldn't remember that they even exist. It was a weird time. But yeah. But I was thinking about that the other night, and I was like looking back at it, and I was like, wow, like, because it's crazy how you can be in the middle of something and you can feel so abandoned, and it can feel so dark, and you can swear that you are alone. But then when you get on the other side of it and then you look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wasn't alone. He was there. And there was like one particular moment that got so dark, I literally did not think that I was going to make it out of it. And that's the moment that my mind keeps going back to, and I'm like, whoa, God was with me. And I felt like because it got that dark, there was no way that he could have been with me in the middle of that. But it's so clear to me when in my mind's eye I go back to that moment, I'm like, he's the only reason I'm still here. He's the only reason I'm alive, So, I mean, Vinny's great. Vinny's been there for me from day one. And like when I first went through like, my divorce and stuff, Vinny was there. Like I owe my life also to him. You know what I mean? Like he was there for me, and I don't know if I would be here if he hadn't been around for me at that point. But certainly that next darkness, like that next very hard period that I went through, which, some people, it was self-inflicted, partially. And I think also God was teaching me something in it as well. But yeah, it was, yeah. That answers your question.
He had a follow-up for you. He said, did it feel surreal to you, like you're almost watching yourself from the outside?
100%. That's exactly, yeah. It was, yeah, I felt like I was,
specific.
Yes, I felt like I was outside of myself, watching myself. And the weirdest thing, I was thinking about this today, was that there was a point in time where I was like, oh my gosh, this phase could last X amount of time. And I thought to myself, there's no way God's going to make this darkness last for that long. There's no way. But that was like a big chunk of time before I was out of that dark period. So, yeah, but I was definitely like watching myself in it, and I was like, this could go on for a really long time. Because I felt like God had lessons and things that he wanted to teach me. That's cool looking. Yeah. So definitely. It's interesting because now that I'm on like the other side of it, I feel more like I'm experiencing life from myself or from person one. I don't know, it's a weird thing to say, and I'm not even sure.
Person one.
Yeah, like
they don't know what you're talking about, person one, but
well,
I know what you're
I'm
saying.
actually talking about, it's a gaming reference that I'm using, like, and I'm not even sure if I use the reference properly. Like, you know when you have like first person where you're like watching it yourself, or there's like in Fortnite where you're watching your character run. I felt like I was watching my character run. I would watch Vinny play Fortnite, and I was like, that's how I feel like I'm watching my life. I feel like I'm watching myself going around doing it. But now I feel more like I'm first person. Like I'm on. Yeah, it's weird. Is that how you're feeling?
If it's not, that's a hell of a guess there, my boy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, wait a
Yeah.
second. You reading somebody's journal? What the fuck going on? Are boogies coming back in 2025? Yes. Yes, they are. Thoughts on Biden pardoning the kids for cash judge?
What's that?
Guys, here's my thing
Yeah,
about Biden.
Ryan.
About Biden and the pardon, right? None of us believes that Epstein killed himself. Mm-hmm. Even the great Donald Trump went with the party line about Epstein. So, for me, that tells you everything you need to know about these people. And that's just the long and the short of it for me.
Ryan said, depression is a frightening disassociation when one feels entirely alone. People seem like projections that aren't real. And yeah, everything, it got so bad.
Charlie Toms, I'm going to get to you soon, bro.
It got so bad that not only the people around me didn't feel real, but everything felt fake. Even the food that I was cooking. Like, I kept thinking, these hot dogs that I'm cooking look like the plastic hot dogs that I was cooking when I was, like, that you used to play with when you were kids. They were perfect. And it was like I remember looking at fake food when I was a kid. Like, okay, my parents would go visit people or whatever, and you'd be sitting at the table waiting for them to stop talking. And everybody always had those fake food bowls, either fake grapes or fake bread. And so I remember just sitting at the table, just staring at this fake fruit for probably hours. And when I was I would like the perfection with the fakeness, and then thinking about how real stuff has imperfections, like those thoughts as like a 10, 12-year-old. And then at this point in my life, like looking at the food and being like, that looks so fake, and like fake real. I don't know. It was a very, very weird disassociative sort of time. And I think that it also like kind of like clashed with COVID, because COVID makes it so you can't really smell stuff. Like, I can't smell like I used to. I can't taste like I used to. So mixing that with the disassociation was like a lot. But it's weird. My sense of smell and taste is coming back. Brian says, when I think about heaven,
hold on. Somebody super chatted.
Oh.
Hey, Charlie. Yeah. Let's go to him. Shout out to big homie Charlie Pomes says,
thank you for the super chat.
What do you thinking I am about non-mocking jokes where Jesus is the subject line, i.e. Jim Gaffigan? My cousins shame me for enjoying his stand-up. I never saw Christ as less than in that stand-up. I don't know the jokes that Gaffigan made about Jesus. Relative to mocking Jesus, I apply what I was taught in New York, which is if my friend is not around, you're gonna be very uncomfortable to talk shit about my friend around me. Mm-hmm. If you talk shit about my friend around me,
100%,
then you open a door, right? And so for me, it's like, that's okay. Like, you can say whatever you want about Jesus, but I'm gonna say something to you, because you just open a door. Now, obviously, Jesus is not like my friends were. Like, with us, like if you say some shit about my friend, we gonna get at you, like physically. Obviously, Jesus doesn't want that, but to me, it's a tactic I used a lot when I was out there working in the world. People would say something about Jesus Christ, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, for real? Jesus? You want Jesus? And, sometimes it would go into a good conversation. Other times people were uncomfortable because I don't want to bring up religion. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, if you don't want to bring up religion. Then... But the other thing is, I truly believe that there is a being somewhere in some dimension somewhere named Jesus of Nazareth that really exists, that everybody is going to have to give an account to. Jesus said every careless word is going to be accounted for. And so the love your neighbor principle also applies. If you truly love your neighbor, and if you truly believe that there is a terrifying moment for them where that video is going to be played and Jesus of Nazareth looks him in the face with all that fire in his eyes and says, "What was that?" If I see somebody in that scene, I got to be able to say, "I told you." And it ain't in no like prideful way. It's a way of like, I'm not going to have your blood on my hands, bro. The scripture says you shall not bring the name of the Lord your God to nothing. That's what it means, in vain. And so when you understand you shall not bring the name of the Lord your God to nothing, then that has massive implications. First for your own life, right? Because you go, okay, am I living in such a way that the weight of the name of God is accurately represented in my life? And so it should make you introspective before you're extrospective, right? Take out the log in your own eye kind of principle. But to be honest with you, I don't want people around me comfortable blaspheming Jesus. Mm-hmm. I want to make you uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And it's better that I make you uncomfortable than Jesus makes you uncomfortable, because the fact of the matter is a lot of these people do not understand who Jesus is. Mm-hmm. They truly believe that, they don't understand. That man has swallowed up entire cities, countries, peoples. Swallowed them up and destroyed them all. So, you want to talk about destroyer of worlds? He's yeah. So that's kind of how I look at it. Because I really believe all this stuff, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Somebody was saying that a bit like Superman, Matthew Hoyle, a bit like Superman, where the dark Superman separates from the good Superman and they have a conflict. So I actually haven't seen that one, but I understand the reference, and that is what it felt like. I kind of like being on the other side of it. So I've always been a super prideful person, like, and my pride was masked because other people around me had less self-control than I did. So I came off looking good and other people came off looking not as good, and so then that increased my pride because I felt like, like I'm like a really good person. And I basically always felt like I was better than everybody. And I mean, Vinny married me like that. I always felt like that I was better, like I was like a step ahead of everybody, like I don't know, it was weird.
She
like
let niggas know too, boy.
Yeah, and I didn't even feel like I was letting people know. It was just like, this is where it is, And I remember when I was like 12 years old, my youth pastor at the time, which is probably the only person that really talked to me about my pride, he was like, "Sorry," he said, "you are an extremely prideful young lady." And I was like, okay. And he was like, he said, if you do not humble yourself, God will humble you. And he was right. He was completely right. And it was interesting because it took a really long time, just like it did with Nebuchadnezzar, but eventually God got with me, and I basically experienced basically God was showing me that any good that we have is because he's given us grace, and we're to our core, we're sinful beings, and like when God graces us, he allows us to be better than our sinful self. And so I was not owing my goodness to God, I was owing it to myself. And then I experienced myself apart from his grace. His grace still carried me. If I had died, I believe that I would have been ushered right into his hands, but he allowed me to experience life apart from his grace, and I suffered for a very long time, and by extension my family also suffered, but now on the other side I'm like, okay, like I am a very dark person and things can get very bad. But because God is gracious and he's merciful to me, like I can I can offer good to my family and to the world and stuff like that. And so, like, I don't know, for me, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for all of us. Because if God can make me good, then he can fix anybody. Mm-hmm. Because yeah, I saw myself split in two, and I saw how dark I can be, and I don't ever want to see that version of myself ever again. So I'm sticking close to Jesus. Let's see if there was another one. I don't.
What do y'all
like that
think
one.
about leaving behind Judeo-Christian? An evangelical would be repulsed if they heard someone refer to oneself as a Muslim Christian, even though Muslims have more respect for Christ. Yeah, I agree. The Judeo-Christian thing to me is insane. It looks like what they're really trying to say is the Old and New Testament ethic that we have as Western people, but that is not the same thing as Judaism. Judaism and the Old Testament are vastly, vastly different religions. Even the people who promote what's called Judaism now will tell you that. So I agree. We don't have a Judeo-Christian society in the West. That's untrue, and I completely agree with you.
My chat reset, so if you asked a question and I didn't respond to it, just rewrite it, because I just have the new ones here. Why did God tell Ezekiel to lay on his side for 490 days and cook food from a fire of his own dung? I'm gonna let Vinny answer that one. I think that I know that he was putting a message out there, but I'll be honest with you, I always had an issue with that, and I also think that he had to do it naked.
Well, so. Ezekiel had an issue with that. He said, "Lord, I've never eaten anything unclean," and God said, "Fine, you don't have to do it." The reason he did that is because those are the conditions that you're in when you're in exile. When you end up in exile, that's how you have to cook your food, and you're in a situation where you don't have the ability to go anywhere by yourself, etc. It's the same reason Isaiah was told to walk around naked for 3 years. It's because that's what people would do to you when you went on exile. They'd strip you naked and make you walk from your from where you live to where they are, as an act of subjugation. And so Isaiah's job was to say, I am a sign that this is going to happen to the nation as a whole. And so it was an image that gave warning to the people to stop playing around, is the idea.
Definitely alarming.
What's up, Mr. Marcus? Good to see you, buddy. Applejack says, like the plot to a dystopian movie, New York will now monitor social media writings, collect data, and use law enforcement to crack down on any expression it deems to be hate speech. That has been happening for a very long time. The concern is the publicization of it and the lack of pushback. That's the part where I'm concerned. It's the fact that they're saying we can now just do this blatantly and the people aren't going to say anything, and they're right for the most part. But they've been doing that, which I'm sure you already knew that. Yes, Jesus rebuked the religious elite of his time, the Pharisees and the scribes, in harsh terms. In Matthew, Jesus called them hypocrites and said that their religion was empty. He also said that they prevented people from finding salvation and were not truly seeking God. Yep, correct. I agree with all of that. Well, the Torah is the basis of Judaism, the Old Testament, its original language. Sure, the Talmud came later, but it doesn't have the status that the Torah has. You're wrong, Fafallah. Fafallah, what you should do is Google oral Torah and written Torah. Because, no, it's not true that that modern Judaism is based on the Old Testament. Modern Judaism is based on the thoughts, opinions, ruminations, and revelations of their sages. So there are some principles in the oral Torah that are literally contradictory to the written Torah, and the instruction for those people is to follow the oral Torah over the written Torah. So, no. And it's not just the Talmud, by the way. Not even close. The Talmud was not the problem in Second Temple Judaism for Jesus. Why is the priesthood of Melchizedek, who obviously didn't have the Mosaic law, considered a higher priesthood than the priesthood of Aaron, considering Aaron was a priest of the law? The reason for that is because the Paul says in Galatians that the law was added because of sin. If you look at the old Genesis prior to the inception of the Mosaic law, every man was essentially the priest of his household. That's why you have Jacob being able to build altars to commemorate things to God. You have Job, who sacrificed, for the sins of his family well before the initiation of the Mosaic order, obviously. And so every man was the priest of his home. What happened in the Old Testament, there's a very specific event that happened where in Leviticus, the children of Israel began to sacrifice to goat demons. And it was at that point that God centralized the sacerdotal work to the priests, where you can't do that anymore. You got to go through the priests and all the rest of it. So as Paul states, the law was added because of sin. So the Aaronic priesthood was planned obsolescence. It was a holding bank to limit the capability of the children of Israel to engage in idolatry. But it was not God's original design. God's original design was that we were a kingdom of priests, right? And so what you have in the New Testament is Jesus then becomes the high priest, and then we're all included in the body of Christ. So again, we now become a kingdom of priests. Each man is a priest of his home. And so that's why I would say that the Melchizedekian priesthood is superior to the Aaronic priesthood, which is why, was it Psalm 110, where he says you're a priest in the order of Melchizedek. Some of that has to do with the fact that Jesus is from the tribe of Judah, so he wasn't a Levite. And so how do you have the Messiah being a priest when he's not a Levite? But I think the deeper issue is that Melchizedek was sort of the pinnacle of every man a priest. So that's why I'd say that. Do you find it strange that the stories in the Bible are in the emerald tablets? God bless you, Ashbar. I don't know if you're trying to joke, and please forgive me if you're not trying to joke, but if you got the emerald tablets from Billy Carson.
Oh no.
Well, let me just say it this way. Ash, is that a serious question? Let me ask it that way. And I promise you I'm not trying to be dumb, but do you guys think we're in the last days? I do not believe we're in the last days. I actually think we're in the early days of the church. Didn't God punish the Jews for what they did as outlined in the Old Testament? Yes, and he punished them in the New Testament as well. Thoughts on H.P. Lovecraft and his work, may I ask? I don't know much about H.P. Lovecraft other than that he was an inveterate racist. But that doesn't color my opinion of his work. We've covered a couple songs like Cthulhu, Call of Cthulhu, and things like that were Lovecraftian. I just think he was a talented artist who's extremely influential. Beyond that, I don't know. So all I'll say, he was a very talented, influential artist. And I think he kind of like combined sci-fi with horror. But I'm just grasping at straws here. I'm pretty ignorant of his body of work, aside from what people on the channel have explained to us.
We'll pray with you, Derek.
I have a porn addiction. I keep praying. We'll pray with you, bro.
Don't,
Stephen Wood.
You know, the Bible talks about...
Stephen Wood, relax, bro. I'm not skipping your question. It's just that it's happening over and over and over. You know, people ask me questions. Let me get to Stephen's question.
And I'll get back to your porn one in a second.
You guys need to listen to Me Without You. Maybe the best Christian band out there. You'd find a lot of deep meaning in their lyrics, and the lead vocalist has ties in Christianity and Islam. I feel like we did one Me Without You song. Go check our YouTube. Just type in and sorry, Me Without You. I feel like we did once. Yeah, he's responsible for cosmic horror. I think, yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. No, Fafo.
I don't see anything there.
Fafo Law, my brother, you're mistaken. You're mistaken. The oral Torah represents the cumulative thought processes of their sages. Okay, and that's nowhere to be found in the Torah. The practices that they have, and all the rest of it, are not Torah-based practices. Even Jesus was talking about this when he showed up. He said, "You replace the word of God for your tradition." So it's just not true. They believe that the oral Torah supersedes the written Torah. As it is, it's a completely different religion than the religion we see in the Old Testament.
Okay, so two things. One of them is porn guy. I'm not sure what your name was.
Derek, I think his name was.
I think that, okay, one of the things that I learned going through like that whole dark spell that I went through is that even if we all don't have the same problems, we all still have problems. And those problems, the principles of the Bible apply to all of them. And so you're saying you have a porn problem. I had my own problems. Vinny's got his own problems. Everybody here has their own problems. And what the Bible says is that if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. If your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. Like, it's basically what it's telling you is when you have something that is destructive to you, that is destructive and it's ruining you, then you need to do anything and everything you can to remove that thing, remove whatever it is that's causing you, even if it means your own arm. Like, obviously we're not literally saying like, you know, there are simpler things. Like maybe there are certain there are certain sites that you keep finding yourself on. I'm really not sure how that whole world works. Like, I don't know if you can avoid certain sites. I don't know if you can get certain apps on your devices that makes it. I do know that there are certain programs that makes it so that way you can have an accountability partner, and somebody, like every place that you go to, it sends the information to somebody of where you've gone to, so somebody can help kind of partner with you to get past it. But you know, like the Bible talks about sexual sins being sins that are deep in us, and that we should run from them. The Bible says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. So in a lot of instances, when something evil or something, you know, whatever, we're supposed to resist it and fight against it and strengthen ourselves through it. Like, you know, but sexual sin and sins like that, the Bible says, you know what, run from it. There's a level of depth that sexual sin has in us that it can really cling on to us. And so he says, just run from it, just get away from it. So whatever it is that you have to do, you know, Vinny and I have talked about this before. If you're an alcoholic and there's one way to get home that brings you past the bar, and there's another way that brings you home that you don't pass the bar, take the part that's not past the bar. And if you decide to take the part where you are going past the bar, don't lie to yourself and say, I'm just taking this route because it's shorter. If the real reason you're driving by is so you can pass the bar, and then you can say, well, I mean, I'm over here, I'm just going to get one drink. And then you go in there and you actually get ossified drunk. Like, don't lie to yourself and say you're not doing what you're doing. If you're doing something, be honest with yourself and say, I'm absolutely going in here to look at this or to do this or whatever. And then do anything and everything that you can to put stopgaps for yourself in the way. And of course, ask Jesus to help you. Even in those moments, like, and you know, sometimes you have to, like, when your mind is craving something and you're being drawn toward a particular sin, it's hard to stop and to go another direction. But once you start, thanks honey, once you start creating that pattern for yourself, it becomes easier and easier. The first time that you resist it and you go the other direction, it's usually the hardest, and it stays hard for like a couple of times, and then it starts easing up, and you're able to, you almost get a strength about you for resisting that particular sin. But yeah, it's pretty destructive. I have this on the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and they have 6 things listed here of similarities between the Emerald Tablets and the Bible. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you want me to read those out, and then I'm not familiar with the Emerald Tablets. Oh,
well, I was asking the guy with the if he was serious about the Emerald Tablets thing.
Well, I mean, I don't know why he wouldn't be serious. I mean, there's some clear stuff here that does look like there's some similarities. Yeah, I don't understand what the face is you're making because I'm not familiar with the.
The approach is a Billy Carson approach, and it's. I'll talk about it later. But he hasn't answered me yet, so okay. He probably wasn't being serious.
I don't know why. I mean, there's some stuff there.
Somebody asked me. Let me see. Why does Yahweh have a wife named Asherah? Well, Yahweh has a wife in the Old Testament, and her name is Israel. Ashtoreth or Ashtaroth was a pagan goddess that was worshipped by the Canaanites that God told the Israelites, do not intermarry with them because you're going to follow their gods. And so what happens is people who are not familiar with the Old Testament, when they hear archaeological digs where you see Yahweh married to Ashtaroth, they go, oh, you guys didn't know about this. They tried to keep this from you. No, the Old Testament, especially the book of Kings, repeats over and over again that the Israelites fell into what's known as syncretism, where you take your religion and mix it with the religion of the surrounding people so that you guys can have unity, you can intermarry, you can trade stocks, all the rest of it, right? So the Israelites, and that's why it happened a lot during the period of the kings, because the kings were also politicians. And so you would give your daughter to this person, so now you guys never enter into jihad, and now you guys are all like teams together, so if another person comes to you, you're twice as strong. You see this with Solomon. It said Solomon loved many foreign women, and because of that, they brought along their gods with them. And so, yes, the Israelites partook in syncretism, where they married Ashtaroth to Yahweh, but that doesn't mean that that was part of the religion. The Bible tells us explicitly that they did that, and they're wrong for doing so. And the good news is, Ashtaroth is not the wife that God wanted. He wanted Israel as a wife. And so, Zero Cobalt, if there was not some sort of archaeological evidence of any sort of syncretism between Yahwism and Ashtaroth, then the Bible would not be true. We would expect for archaeologists to find those kinds of things if the Bible was true, and that's exactly what we found. The Temple of the Dark God, she is the wife of Baal. Among other things. Good call. Very good catch. Fafo. No Jew will say that the oral Torah supersedes the written one. I understand that you have your Christian beliefs, but they believe they receive both written and the oral at the same time. If the oral Torah and the written Torah are in contradiction, which one wins? Fafo law.
It should be the written.
And it's untrue to say that no Jew will say that. How do you feel about Jasher's interpretation of Cain feeling remorse for his brother as opposed to Genesis' account of Cain's apathy? Yeah, I don't buy it at all. And the reason I don't buy it is because the New Testament has a narrative about him. In 1 John, John tells us, do not be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one and killed his brother. And why did he kill his brother? Because his actions were righteous and he was wicked. And he says, nobody who murders his brother has eternal life in him. So the idea that Cain was remorseful cannot be looked upon from the New Testament in any way, shape, or form. Secondly, Cain's action after he made that statement indicates very clearly what his heart disposition was. Yeah. Because it says Cain left the presence of the Lord. God never told him, leave my presence. When God kicked Adam and Eve out of Eden, it didn't say, and Adam and Eve left the presence of the Lord. It just says they left Eden. Mm-hmm. God never said, I'm banishing you from my presence. He just said, the job that you have ain't going to work for you anymore, and you got to have to wander. Now, if God told me that, I'd say, that's cool, because you're coming with me. I mean, think about this. Wandering, the Israelites were wandering in the desert, right? Mm-hmm.
Abraham was wandering, basically. No, I mean, he was searching for a city.
The Israelites were wandering in the desert, and what did Moses say? I'm not going nowhere unless your presence goes with us. Mm-hmm. Even though they were under punishment. And so, Yeah, I understand the whole thing about Cain being remorseful and things like that, but there's just no way you can get there, I think. Forget Billy Carson, read them. Why do you assume I haven't read them? I'm just asking if you're being serious about the Emerald Tablets is all I was asking you about. Do you believe that Satan was a seraphim? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And it's funny because you're the first person that's ever asked me that question using that specific word. Mm-hmm. So, that ass. Yeah, it takes the black metal guy to do it. Was Cain seed of the serpent, and are the Kenites, the Pharisees, the bloodline of Satan and brood of vipers? Well, there's nothing in the Bible that says anything about bloodlines, because they did not divide people that way. But obviously, yes, Cain would be the seed of the serpent in a spiritual sense. For sure. Question. Given the power of the state and its monopoly of force as a guardian of law and order, who guards the guardian? Nobody. And that is the reason why, if you are a minority in those places, you end up not having a good time. What are you looking for?
I just wanted to see if he responded when I was looking at that, how he was feeling.
The video game analogy fits was the last thing you said.
Yeah, I'm reading this one.
I got this number. We should probably hook up soon.
Yeah.
Me and the homie.
Yeah, I agree.
Is Behemoth a satanic band? Well, I would say so. I would say so. I would say that Behemoth is a satanic band, and so should they. What kind of Satanism? That's what I don't know. MD Breakdown says, "Can you see my question from above?" Let me try. Soon. Thank you guys for being patient with us. I haven't watched y'all in a while, but I'm a big fan of your music reaction. Haven't watched Middle America in a long time, but do y'all think Trump reflects Christian values?
Some of them.
Which ones would those be?
Well, the way that he didn't want to send that bomb or whatever over there because it was going to kill 50 people.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of ways to answer that question. So, for example, if somebody said, "Do you believe that Adolf Hitler represents Christian values?" I could say, well, yeah. He loved his country. He loved his countrymen.
And he cared for the animal.
And he cared for his animals. Right? Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, he is also a person deeply afflicted with original sin. And as such, he left his mark on the world. There is nobody in Christian theology that is 100% good other than God and 100% evil in the human family. And so, because of that, everybody's going to reflect Christian values at some level. The next question is Trump, I think what you're trying to say is he a person who I believe is consciously trying to live out Christian values in the world? And if you ask me that question, I would say I have very little evidence, because it's very hard to judge somebody's heart. It's impossible, actually. There is very little evidence that he is purposefully trying to inculcate Christian values, but there are some areas of evidence. His Christmas address, there's clips of him saying, "Hey, it's not wrong to ask God for help," that type of thing. So from that perspective, I could say, these are the feeble, infantile stages of reflecting Christian values. So I'm not sure if I answered the question in total, but that's where I'm at. We need more Vatane reactions.
The other thing too, remember that the Bible says that Satan comes as an angel of light. So that means even the devil himself can come across looking kind of,
very good.
So that means we're all hopeless cases for being able to tell just by looking at something what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Do you believe in obviously I'm serious and can you explain or rebuke? That's Ashbar. So I think does want to do the Emerald Tablets, which is good because I'm interested in reading those things too.
Okay, so it's a serious question. Tell me the specific stories in the Bible that are reflected in the Emerald Tablets.
Okay.
Because you said there are biblical stories that are copied or reflected in the Emerald Tablets. Which ones would those be? Which stories would those be?
Zero Cobalt. What are the winning lottery numbers for this Friday's Mega Millions? Go ahead, Ben. Tell us what it is.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
You don't want to gamble?
Yeah, me now want to gamble. Me now want to gamble. Okay, so there's 2 questions coming for you. For both Vin and Sori. What do you hate the most about politics? One thing I hate is the general public when they act like politicians. They used to always say we're liars and saviors. So what's your overall feeling on politics, or what do you hate? What do you hate the most about politics?
What I hate the most about politics is the lying. It wastes so much time. If you have policies and you're going to go with them, then say that you're going to, and if you're not going to, then don't. Don't, put all these promises out there and then not pull through for them. The other thing that I hate about I think that makes it extremely boring as well. That's probably part of the reason why I like Trump, is because when he says something, it seems like he makes it actionable. So, right now he's talking about renaming the Mexican, what was it? Was he renaming what? He's renaming the Mexican.
The Gulf of Mexico to be the Gulf of America.
Right. Yeah. Stuff like that. Like, I appreciate that level of, when we first, heard historical accounts and stuff in politics, it was like, you heard a lot about America, overcoming stuff, and, it just seemed like, we were taking over the Panama Canal and all these different things. It seemed like we were doing a lot of stuff.
The Panama Canal was originally ours. So.
Yeah, but we had a situation involved with that, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Wasn't there a fight over there?
Some of the stuff people are freaking out about Trump are not as bad as they're trying to portray them as. But.
Okay, so I would say it's the lying. That's what I hate the most about politics. It's the lying and the dishonesty and the way that it gets sometimes, or it seems like a lot of times, it gets nothing gets done about it.
I think the biggest thing I hate about politics is people do not seem to be very swayed by facts. It seems we're in a very strange place where nobody believes in legacy media, but yet the ultimate meta-narratives everybody functions within come from them, and there's a bunch of people who don't understand the difference. And so you'll have a situation where a guy like Putin, look at the whole Russiagate situation. The thing was complete garbage. Mm-hmm. And they lied to us and spent millions of dollars and impeded this man from governing the country, because he's dealing with cases the entire time. You had people saying, we're not going to let this guy be the president. You had people running. I think the AG in New York was running on locking up Trump. And it's like, because he's Trump, all of these abuses of his civil rights are okay. And nobody sees how they can switch that on you. Mm-hmm. When Twitter made the decision to suppress the Biden laptop story, and then they came out with the intelligence groups and said, this isn't real. And then even if you shared it in your private messages in Twitter, they blocked you. Then it comes out later after Biden's elected, oh, actually it was true, and he really did take a shower with his daughter when they were teenagers. People are fine with that. They're not offended that they were lied to. They were not offended that their speech was their ability to share information was destroyed.
Right, that's what I'm saying. There should be
and they just kept it. There was no repercussions for anybody. Rachel Maddow's still on TV. She spanned a 4-year conspiracy theory yard. And the crazy part was, if you didn't believe in Russiagate, you were the conspiracy theorist. So that to me is like, look, the politicians lie, and but the fact of the matter is, we communicate to these politicians. You don't need to beach. You could just lie. You can lie us into wars. You can lie us into $8 trillion and 1 million dead people and traumatizing thousands of U.S. soldiers. That's okay. Just lie us into a war. Lie us into Russiagate. I have a more problem with the people. I have more of a problem with people than I do with the politicians. My principle is always, if you're going to take it, if you're going to give it, people are going to take it. So as long as Americans continue to be lied to by their government and keep playing these partisan games with each other, and as long as we're continuing to do this and not holding people accountable because they're in our crew, then it's going to continue to happen. I mean, it's good. It's good baseball to lie. If you can lie for 4 years about somebody and spend millions of dollars and impede the legislative process of a president of the United States, if you could do that and get away with it, then it's going to keep happening. So, people had so much ego and all this other stuff wrapped up in Russiagate. But that was just like the Iraq War, Russiagate, the Ukraine, like, that's the thing that frustrates me the most. Politicians don't frustrate me at all because, as you've seen, AOC just took her pronouns out of her Twitter account. These politicians are going to go with whatever the zeitgeist is, and we communicate to them what the zeitgeist is by holding them accountable. And we're not doing that. So I have no complaints about the politicians, man. More power to you. As long as we're stupid enough to keep that shit going, then they need to keep doing what they're doing. Vin and/or Story, do you believe in term limits? And if you can, please explain why you support this inhibition on democracy. That has been a question that's been swimming around in my head. I'm assuming we're specifically going to lock it down to presidential term limits, so you can only serve 2 terms, right? Mm-hmm. So he's saying, how is that democratic? What if we want Trump in for a 3rd term? Why are you impeding democracy? We say, well, we're trying to maintain checks and balances. We go, yeah, but if the people vote for him, that's the check and the balance. I do not believe that, especially the Supreme Court currently constructed, I don't believe that it would be impossible to get that ruling reversed. I don't see any logical or constitutional reasons for how term limits can survive a real challenge. So that's the answer to my question. Now, am I good with term limits? Yeah, I'm good with term limits because of the practical ramifications they're in. But if you're just talking constitutionality, I just don't see it.
I think the one thing that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable is that everybody's kind of looking sideways, or like at least the majority of us are looking sideways at the 2020 elections and saying, those numbers are very weird. How high those numbers were.
15 million delta.
Yeah. So
in the first election in a post-row environment with a female candidate, and there was a 15 million vote delta.
So that kind of makes me feel uncomfortable, and then it makes me think, okay, if you get somebody corrupted, at least they're only going to be in for 2 terms, and that's as far as it can go, and they can't manipulate themselves to stay in longer, because I thought that whole thing was bizarre, and we kind of look sideways at it, and now people are really, after the 2024 elections, looking more at it like, that didn't seem like, okay, those numbers don't seem right, stuff seems to be a little bit off in that regard. And so I like that people are only in for a little bit and then they move on. So it does seem like it enables us to make it more about what the people want. But I really don't know at the end of the day how free we really are, even in our voting, because of what happened, on the 2020. Like, it's like, how do we really have a democracy? I mean, obviously it's more democratic than other places, or at least it seems it is. But at the same time, we don't really know. Like, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff happening, and numbers and things don't seem to be really adding up. So I don't know. And honestly, the left's reaction to the Trump winning is very bizarre, because they keep talking about democracy while at the same time they're hating Americans because we voted the way that we voted.
Well,
or not. I'm not talking about all the left, but like a lot of the voices that are talking.
Yeah, it's
that
like
we're
we want
hearing.
democracy, not like that.
Yeah,
Not like that.
they want democracy when it's what they want.
Do you think the miracle of the sun and the apparitions of Mary telling the kids they need to suffer, etc., were demonic or UAP interferences? I do not, at this point in my life, see much difference between angelic activity
Yeah, Dems.
and UAP phenomena. I do not believe that the miracle of the sun, so-called, was originated in God, in the Most High. I don't believe that. I think
That's interesting. I don't believe that either.
the apparitions had a very Mary word direction, and I'm not afraid of the Blessed Mother
he's got
at all.
The Blessed Mother hanging right here.
I'm not afraid.
She was right here in the beginning of the stream.
I'm not afraid of her. I love her to death. But the Mary I know would say, talk to Jesus, listen to him, and then get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I think that there is definitely, look, Satan knows what he's planning. So, she gave an accurate prophecy about the destruction that was going to happen to the world. But Satan knew what he was planning in the. But yeah, but what I would say is that the miracle of the sun, if you really look at the details of the miracle of the sun, actually, we have a book about this that we were reading together with Jacques Vallée,
Mm-hmm.
where people were talking about the sun actually as a disc that was spinning. I mean, the term disc is actually used, and so these people in Europe at the time didn't have language for UAP or UFO. And so, yeah, I really think that that's a lot of what was going on over there for sure. For sure.
Thanks for the super chat.
What's your thoughts that Lucifer's name is Samael? Yes, yeah, the Lucifer thing really just means Venus. I know a lot of people, especially if you're raised on the KJV, believe that Lucifer is like the common proper name for the devil. It's not. It's not a distinctly Hebrew. It's a loan word as well.
Loan word?
Yeah, Lucifer. Well, it's really
What do you mean, just used once? What do you mean by loan word?
Hapaxogomena. Loan word meaning from other cultures, not rooted in the original culture.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you would expect, Samael and all the rest of those guys. My favorite one is Shemyaza. He's the one that got us all in all this trouble at Mount Hermon. But yeah, I agree with you that it's always fascinating to me how the black metal folks are a lot more technical and exact with their theology.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, my boy. What's up, Chow? Chow Zing in this bitch. What's up, Chow Zing?
Hello.
You rapping, dog? Vinny, do you believe that God wrote the Constitution of a bunch of slave-owning white supremacist Freemasons? No, I do not believe that I only believe there's one document that is inspired, and that's the Holy Bible. I do not believe that the Constitution is an inspired document.
But when it says that all men are created equal,
that's not the Constitution.
Yeah, I know. That's
a preamble to the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, but stuff like that, we believe that obviously has its roots in the Bible. And the other thing that's interesting about it is it was a bunch of white supremacists, but at the same time, like when they wrote that, they didn't believe that black people were equal. Obviously, they had slaves at the time, but they wrote a document that was greater than they were. And it had its genesis in the scriptures. So,
agreed. I would say that yeah, there's really nothing to add to that. That was perfect. I'm an theistic Luciferian, so that's why. Yeah, okay. Well, come and welcome. Vin, what do you think of the idea that Yahweh is a pagan god? Well, of course he is. He's everybody's god. There's only one God, right? So. He is the god of the pagans. He's also the god of the atheists. That pretty much goes along with the Bible. What am I missing? Am I missing?
Yeah, no, it's just an interesting, like, a pagan god. It makes it sound like in the lineup of all the pagan gods, is he one of them? No, he is the only. Well, we say that's why it's called. He's the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, is because there are lesser gods. In fact, the Scripture says that we are gods, in a lowercase sort of place. Oh my gosh! You know what I was thinking about? What's going on?
Where does the Bible say you're gods?
Elohim, like in Genesis.
It says you're in the image of God. Where does it say you're God?
I thought the word breaks down to be that we are like lower gods.
Where? What verse?
What, maybe it's a little lesser than the angels?
Yeah, he said he made us for a little while a little lesser than the gods or the angels.
Well, hold on a second. I thought that there's a spot in there where we're gods in a lower sense.
Well, it's Hebrews 4, right? It says he made us for a little while lower
maybe that's
than
not the verse that I'm talking about.
Than the
it's
angels.
Actually Genesis that I was thinking of. Something in Genesis.
Genesis never says that we're Elohim.
Okay, who does it use the word gods for? Just the angels?
Are you talking about Psalm 82? I said you're God, children of the Most High, but you'll die like men?
No, because that would have been that's
that
the
was
angels.
the B'nai Elohim.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the text that says we're gods or we're going to become gods. The closest you can get is the Psalm where it says, "I made you a little." He made man for a little while lower than the angels. Is the translation, but the word says Elohim. So you can extrapolate from that. If we are a little while lower than the Elohim, that means at some point we're going to be exalted above them, right?
Yeah, but that wasn't what I was thinking of. I'm not really
other
sure.
than that, the Bible doesn't say that.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I was thinking about
But
that.
again, in Psalm 82 it says, I said you are God's children of the Most High, but you'll die like men.
No,
and fall
that
like
wasn't
any prince.
that wasn't what I was thinking of.
Okay.
I just thought that there was something else that I thought that there was something in there that was in the Hebrew. Okay.
What are your thoughts on Christians becoming atheists by religious abuse or any kind of abuse? Well, I've talked to people. I mean, he's following Jesus now, but he went to Satanism because the brand of Christianity that he was dealing with was extremely oppressive and really antichrist. And so Jesus made a statement. He says, whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it'd be better for you to, unalive yourself, literally. I mean, that's what Jesus said. And a lot of, people don't take that verse seriously enough. I think God holds the corrupter way more accountable than the people reacting to the corruption. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, I told that dude, because he was like a Satanist, he did a bunch of rituals or whatever, and he was a little bit concerned for his soul now that he was returning to Christ. I said, listen, man, you're leaving that Christianity and then embracing the enemy of Christ was actually you fighting for the true God, because at some level you were saying this cannot be the true God, but you didn't have any guidance to show you what the true God was like, and so you're like, well, I'm going to go the opposite direction. But I don't believe that you were really devoted to Satan. You were just saying, I am rejecting that God because that God is destructive. And in that sense, you were fighting for God, and the evidence would be the fact that when you had the opportunity to see the real and true God, you want to follow him, and now you're worried about blaspheming him. So that's what I would say. I would say that God always holds the people in power way more accountable than the people who are not in power. But at the same time, we've got to be accountable because God's a person like anybody else. And so if you had a child that was, in an orphanage or whatever, and a bunch of people told your child a bunch of lies about you, and so your child ended up growing up with the fuck dad energy, you could understand that. And what you would do is you would enter into his life, maybe buy him a coffee, maybe do this, maybe that. You're going to understand as a father, this guy's going to need time to deconstruct all the bullshit that he was fed about me. So all I would say is, if anybody's in that situation, let God get you the coffee and sit down and have a chat. What harm could it do? Open the Gospel of John, read one page a day. And, there's only 22 chapters in the Gospel of John. Read a chapter a day. And then by the time you get to John 22, if you think it's bullshit, then get out of the coffee shop and do your thing. I just have never seen somebody go beginning to end of the Gospel of John and not be radically changed. So that's what I'd say. Good question. Emily Asun, what's up? Salam alaikum. Have you heard about the idea that the serpent in the garden was Jesus?
What?
I've heard variations of that. But I it's Billy Carson again. I don't think that that's true.
I never heard that before.
What's your thoughts on anti-cosmic Luciferianism? Well, I think I forgot the name of the guy. Was it the dude that did Death? He had some like European name, but he was an anti-cosmic guy, and he ended up unaliving himself. The anti-cosmicism is very interesting because the scripture says God is not the author of confusion. And so there's sort of this like spiritual entropy that is kind of the centerpiece of that thought process. Obviously, anything that results in the death of people, I am against. What is fascinating to me, though, is the theistic aspect of that, which means that you have people that believe, which would be yourself, maybe, that Satan is an actual being with ontology in some dimension in the world, in reality, and I agree. What's confusing to me is why anybody would follow, especially because to me it appears that many Luciferians, especially the theistic ones, have a very big penchant on power and self-will. Why would you follow the creator, the created being, who by definition would be infinitely inferior to the creator? That's something I could never really understand. Furthermore, how anti-cosmic can we be? Does it only have to do with the cosmic sort of universe? Or does it also include chaos in people's personal lives? And if it doesn't include chaos in people's personal lives, if everything is inverted, I'm not particularly certain how you do not run into some serious moral anarchy in that kind of construct. So I actually have more of a question than an answer for that one.
What is this cosmic Satanism? What's...
I'll tell you in a second. Somebody asked me a question. Yeah, the dude from Dissection, correct. When my son was 11, Jesus Christ introduced my dad, who passed away of cancer when I was 15, to my son. In our backyard where my son was playing, I've been told this is not biblical. What do you think? Well, Christian case, what happened with your son after that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was the effect of that interaction on your son? Do you think Jesus is more forgiving than we give him credit for? Like, we'd be surprised who actually gets into heaven. Yes. I think on both sides we're going to be surprised. Mm-hmm. Paul said, behold the kindness and severity of God. Mm-hmm. And so I think we're going to be extremely surprised at God's graciousness and all the rest of it. And I also think a lot of people, and not a lot of things scare me, but sometimes I will go in persona to that day to some of my friends, and people are going to be terrified. People are going to be terrified. Like, and that's why I say, like, when people, oh, Jesus Christ, blah, 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 like, I honestly don't get offended. I kind of, because the price that Jesus paid for us to avoid wrath tells me that wrath is something to be avoided.
Yeah.
And I would rather spend 7,000 years in the gulag than spend 7 seconds with Jesus looking at me the way he's going to look at some of you. It's not a game.
Yeah.
I would encourage people to look into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my thing is, like, a lot of us have experienced depression and darkness and horrible periods of our lives, and in those places, like, that's that's not hell. That's still here where there is still bits of grace to make it easier. So like whatever horrible whatever we've experienced here, like that's nothing compared to the description of what that eternal place is like. So,
and I'm not even talking about the place. I'm talking about the confrontation.
mm-hmm.
I'm just talking about the confrontation.
Yeah,
when I was a kid, like, you know, it was old school. They did spanking and things like that. Just the initial confrontation was way scarier to me than the spanking.
Mm-hmm.
I was relieved.
Mm-hmm.
So
mm-hmm.
people have no idea,
mm-hmm.
you know, because they've never looked him in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thing. Like, this shit is real. It's really real. And I believe most of my friends are going to make it home, but some of y'all are not. And it's terrifying. We believe your God went against the will of the void, and that there are primordial deities like Tiamat, and the fallen angels are like Promethean type entities. We fight against the natural order. Yeah, but okay, so you fight against the natural order. So here's a question I have for you. Currently, the natural order is that adults take care of children. That's the natural order. You see it in nature, and you definitely see it in the human family. On what basis, if you're a Satanist in this denomination, could you say that pedophilia is an objectively wrong thing to do? Wouldn't pedophilia be the right thing to do if you're going to totally upend the natural order? Because the natural order is that adults generally do not have sex with children. Dogs generally do not mate with puppies. That's the natural order. They actually care for their young. Sometimes they eat them, and when we eat our young too, in clinics all over America. But the question I have for you is, sex with children is abnormal and unnatural. So, does your philosophy, religion, have any space for saying, yep, we're going to flip the natural order except for that? And on what basis could you make that determination? It's a serious question I have. Did you hear that Wes Huff appeared on Joe Rogan? Yes, I did see that. And that's why I'm asking about, you know, Billy Carson, and I'm trying to be respectful, because Billy Carson has said so much crazy shit that was just so wrong, surface level, that, like I said, I was going to shoot a video about him, but I was like, no. It was just, you know. So, yes, I'm very surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Xiaozing says, do you think the Bible is metaphoric? Well, the Bible is a document that's aware of itself. And so, for example, when it's telling us a story or a parable, it'll say, and he told them this parable. Mm-hmm. When it's speaking allegorically, it'll say, Galatians 4, Paul says, these two women can be allegorically looked upon. The book of Revelation starts off with the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show the things to his servants which must soon take place. And the word for show is the Greek word seimino, which means literally to communicate with signs. So when the Bible is not being literal, it will tell you it's not being literal. When it's being poetic, it will tell you it's poetic. When it's speaking parabolically, it will tell you that. When it's speaking allegorically, it will tell you that. If it's speaking metaphorically, it will tell you that. The Bible is not one book. It is actually a collection of 66 books, 40 authors, spanning multiple genres. You have historical narrative, you have didactic teaching, you have poetry, wisdom literature, that type of thing. So
prophetic works.
That's how I'd answer that question. We're nihilistic. We believe right and wrong are illusions that do what thou wilt to escape the cosmic order and to return back to the pre-creation state. Right. So, and I'm not being funny, but if you do that to a child, and you are serially known for doing that to a child, you could get yourself killed really easily, right? So, from your perspective, then I guess pedophilia would be okay, because you're upending the natural. I'm not saying you're a pedophile, but you're upending the natural order, and you're doing things that's going to help you escape from this world, because folks are going to kill you. I mean, is that what you're saying? It's to reject the human because it's a prison. It's been imprisoned by your God. Okay, so then we agree that pedophilia not only would not be spoken against, but should be practiced, because it's a bastardization of the natural order, and it is a kind of life that will lead you to death.
To a quick release from the prison that our God supposedly trapped you in. That's crazy.
Oh, so it's not. I mean, I want to hear what he has to say. Do you think intercession in Catholicism is idolatry? That's too broad of a question. If you're asking me the specific official teachings of the Catholic Church, no, I do not. I think that is the.
What does he mean by intercession?
Praying to the so-called dead. No Christian prays to the dead because the saints are alive. Jesus said, "God is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living." So no Catholic prays to the dead. If the person is saying, "Saint Michael, I'm about to go and do this op, and I want you to protect all me and my friends because you're a warrior angel and we're warriors," I don't see how that's idolatrous. I do think it crosses a line when you have Ligori, for example, who talks about Mary being our life and our sweetness and our hope. "To thee do we cry, banished children of Eve, in this vale of sorrows," etc., etc. That is idolatry. You know, the analogy they say is, look, you ask your friends to pray for you, and I say that's true. But I've never said, "Sorry, my life, my sweetness, my hope. I'm a banished son of Adam, and you're the person that I can come to for hope," and all the rest of it in this vale of tears. Like, Jesus paid a heavy, heavy price to wipe my sins away, right? And he also paid a real serious price to wipe the tears out of my eyes. Mary didn't pay that price. And so I'm very jealous to protect that for Christ, because he earned it. But if you're asking Mary to talk to her son on your behalf, I don't think that is idolatrous. But if your heart attitude is that Mary is your life, your sweetness, and your hope, then you're cheating on Christ with his mother. We believe death is the ultimate liberation. Okay, so that means that a person, and Dark Gods, I really need you to answer this question. That means that a person could commit an act of pedophilia, murder the child, and then kill himself and be consistent with the tenets of your religion. Is that right or wrong? Because the natural order is to preserve life and to expand life, and you guys want to undo the natural order. The natural order is that the stronger adults protect their children and protect them from exploitation. The unnatural thing to do would be to sexually exploit your child. And then you said death is the ultimate freedom. So after you've exploited the child and upended the natural order, then you can kill him and kill yourself. Is that something that is consistent with your religion? It's a yes or no question. Anti-cosmic Satanism is about embracing the complete destruction of the world in all of its forms, as far as I understand it. I've got a practitioner here, so I want to see what he says. I suspect that this individual is better than his religion. Jesus on the cross represents the denial of the body ego, dying on the cross, showing an extreme example of denying ego wants and needs, coming into the true self of the soul, the God within all of us. Dying for our sins shows us the ego doesn't matter. Only thing that matters in our soul, as it's all that we take with us in this life and is actually real. Yeah, Zhao, I think that that's your philosophy, but it's completely unbiblical. Number one, the Bible does not say that we're souls alone and that death frees us from the shell of the body. Actually, the body is going to be physically resurrected, and that we're gonna be operating in a permanent physical universe. Number two, nowhere in the Bible does it say that the ego doesn't matter. The ego absolutely matters to God. As a matter of fact, the scripture says that if you do not seek for glory and honor, that you're going to hell. Jesus did not come here to kill our ego. He came to kill our sin, and those are not the same thing. Okay, so the answer is yes. According to your religion, it is a good thing to commit an act of pedophilia against a child, a baby. So according to your religion, you should, not could, but should. You should rape a baby, kill that child, and then kill yourself. I appreciate your honesty, and your religion is rightly called satanic. Mm-hmm. I believe, though, that you have the image of God so imprinted on you that you are better than your religion.
Mm-hmm. Which is why you haven't done that and you're talking to us now.
And the fact of the matter is that probably happened to you. It wouldn't surprise me if something like that happened to you. But I do not think that embracing that kind of philosophy is the way out. Just my opinion. Angel Sin says, if prayer is a sacrifice like Scripture says, and we are to worship God alone, then I don't see how Roman Eastern veneration of saints is anything but idolatrous. Yeah, because I think that the term pray is where we get into the weeds. And when I say we, I'm talking about our Catholic friends. We're talking about praying to saints and things like that. If I call up my friend, I don't say I prayed to my friend. So if a person were to say, I called up so-and-so, but the issue is it's very awkward to say I communicated with the Blessed Mother, blah, 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 blah. What I'm trying to get to is asking someone for intercession is not idolatrous in a biblical sense, because we have this thing called the communion of the saints. I think it crosses a line to prayer when you make a preamble about the Blessed Mother being your life and your sweetness and your hope and all the rest of it. I think it goes from communication to prayer at that point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Temple, you don't believe that that's good, though. I'm pretty sure if you opened the newspaper and you heard that somebody had done that to a baby, raped a baby for 13 hours, and then they discovered it with 155 cuts all through their body, and the baby slowly bled to death and died, I don't think you'd look at that and say, great, fuck the Creator. I think it would break your heart and fuck up your day. That's what I think. I just think that if you have a religion that you are infinitely better than, then you need to scrap that religion.
Yeah.
I think that if you have beef with your Creator, you probably have very good reasons for why you have beef with your Creator. The problem is that you were created in the image of your Creator. And so, Jesus said that to Paul. He said, it's hard for you to kick against the goads. People like you are closer to God and more aware of God in the day-to-day mundanity of life than most churchgoers. So part of the problem is you're constantly being haunted by this spirit that's constantly chasing you down. But I think that struggle's a good struggle for you. But yeah, bro, I mean, I don't believe that you believe in that for a second. Because then what would have to happen is you'd have to say, all them white folks that lynched your forefathers, that was a good thing. All them white folks that raped your foremothers and had an assembly line so that these women could be raped so they could breed men and turn them into animals, which is, again, another flipping of the divine order, right? You turn a man is supposed to be a man, but you can flip that and turn him into a beast of burden. That's what the transatlantic slave trade did. I don't think that you think that that's good. Yeah, I know you're saying you wouldn't care. And I think that speaks to a lot of pain. I think you're in a lot of pain. I don't penalize anybody. There's a passage in the scripture where it says, this guy's having a hard time and his friends are saying, hey, and he goes, man, why don't y'all just shut the fuck up? Don't you understand that the words of a despairing man are words for the wind? So when people are in pain and they're in despair, they say a lot of words that God doesn't hold against them. And I don't think God will hold any of the things that you said against you because you're in obvious pain. I'm just saying, in the midst of your pain, you can't follow a religion where you are infinitely better than that religion. Like, religion is supposed to challenge you to go to heights of goodness that you couldn't do before. So if you've got a religion that you can outstrip in goodness on your worst day, that's not enough of a challenge, I think. Why would God want us to have egos? That's what makes people fight and makes people feel better than others or worse. Wouldn't God want everyone to feel as one? Well, Zhao, the ego is not the problem in a biblical worldview. Sin is the problem. Jesus of Nazareth had an ego. He had a big one. As a matter of fact, when he said, I am, literally, the Greek term is ego, eimi. Ego, E-G-O. The ego is important because it differentiates sentient beings from one another. So ego is not the problem. It is ego infused with our sinful nature that's the problem. My favorite human is Richard Ramirez. Right, because Richard Ramirez is a serial killer, and a lot of people who are obsessed with serial killers enjoy the power that they believe that those people have, because it is an ultimate power to take someone's life from them. But there's a difference between clean power and dirty power. And so you are under a bunch of spiritual, emotional oppression from abuse that you suffered when you were younger. And
abuse that you continue to suffer through the spirits that you open yourself to.
Right, because when you start, here's the thing, the spirits that you're giving yourself to are the same spirits that fucked you up when you were younger. It's the same guys.
Same team.
So I don't got no judgments for you, but there's a reason that you're here. Right? So, I understand. When a person is violated at a young age and they can't defend themselves and they want power, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting power because you are powerless to help and defend yourself when those things are happening to you. Right? So that's part of the image of God in you that says this should not have happened to me. I should have been able to resist. That's part of the image of God in you. So that's not the problem. The problem is that the avenue of power that these beings are offering you are only there for your misery.
And he says it's not a religion, it's a way of life. Well, actually, that makes complete sense to us because it's the same thing for us as Christians. Like, it's not a religion. Like, our Christianity, it's our way of life. Like, when we wake up, like when we eat our meals, it's like a part of everything that we do. And, it used to, I went through a part of my life where it was what I would do because it was what I was supposed to do. But then I've gone through phases like where I am now where it's not because it's supposed to, it's because I cannot live otherwise. Like, my day, I need, and it's not like, it is a sort of desperation point because it's like, I have to get to the creator of the universe, and the lover of my soul, but it's also this, like,
it's not a last-ditch desperation.
Yeah, it's
not,
almost
this is
like,
the last thing I have.
Yeah, it's almost like that feeling of when you, like, first fall in love with somebody and you cannot do anything other than get around that person because you have to be around them. Or Vinny and I, even as we work together and live together and sleep together and do everything together. So I guess it doesn't have to be just when you're first together, but...
You guess. Do you ever feel like some Christians are just be led in a cult? I believe you should research all religions before choosing what religion is yours. Well, Zhao, there are literally hundreds of religions in the world. So if you're going to research all of them, you'd never really have time to come down on a position. What I would say is there's only one religion where the adherents say, our God actually entered into human history and was observed by historians and lived and died and actually pulled off a resurrection. And so for me, it's like, okay, well, I'll look at that guy first because that's the craziest claim of all time. And if that guy's right, then I'm following him. If he's not right, then yeah, you can go back to, I guess, individually researching the 9 million religions out there. But I don't believe that I need to research all religions to know which one is the truth. Do you think that Shemyaza and Azazel and the crew are the locusts from the bottomless pit of Revelation? No.
It's the same thing as like when you're dealing with counterfeit. I don't know if you've ever worked with money. I used to work at a job where we worked with money and IDs, and we didn't study every fake ID that was out there or every fake bill. The only thing that we did is we had to know what the real ones looked like, and then you can tell every fake after you know what the real is. So it's the same thing with religion. Like when you have the true religion, the similarities between the false religions, they are very similar. They just basically come in different colors, but they're all basically the same message. Where the message of Christianity is different. It's about sacrifice and the way that Jesus Christ, the King of the universe, lived and died for us, so that way we could have freedom from the sin that keeps us captive. Is there's nothing like it. You know, a lot of other religions, they're man-made. All the other religions, they're man-made, so they're the center of the religion and like what you get from the religion. You know, like Islam, you know, you're gonna get virgins and rivers of wine. You know, Jesus says don't look at a woman with lust. It says not to hate, you know, stuff like that. So the Christian religion, like it really calls you higher than yourself, and it doesn't give you the things that you would like want to do naturally. Like it's a direction that you go in, and that God supernaturally helps you to walk in, because you know that apart from him you couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Temple of the Dark. Alright guys, 10-minute warning, 10-minute warning. 10-minute warning.
I appreciate your commentary on my question about jokes about Jesus. As a Catholic, I do wonder, are jokes that ponder about biblical history always blasphemous? Because Temple says good is subjective.
Who told you that? Who told you that good was subjective? Afterwards, I want to learn more about the historical context.
After you hear the jokes?
Well, you're a Christian though, right? So that's not the effect that those jokes have on everybody. I promise you that. Anything that gives my unbelieving friends the impression that Jesus is something to be played with, to me is a non-starter. I don't want my friends thinking that Jesus is somebody to play with.
Mm-hmm.
People have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
That man has devoured all of his ops, and he's been undefeated. So, a lot of the things that people blame God the Father for in the Old Testament was Jesus out there wrecking shop. Jesus was the one that was about to destroy the entire city because of David and his numbering of the men. And it says the angel of the Lord was there, suspended between heaven and earth, about to destroy the city. And then God the Father had to say, whoa, chill, stay your hand. Mm-hmm. Don't kill them all. Mm-hmm. So Jesus is the hothead in the Trinity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thing. Like, okay. Like, so that's my thing about the blaspheming Jesus thing.
I think the other thing too about the blaspheming Jesus thing, it's definitely everything that Vin just said. But also there's the like, oh, I don't like, you don't want to offend like this great, or like you don't want to like all of that. But then there's also like, I have not had a greater friend in my life, and I know you haven't either. Like, there's just something about Jesus, man. Like when you when he says something to you or he shows you something, and the care that he gives us and the way that he walks with us, like, I don't know, like it's indescribable, the comfort that he brings you in your darkest times, and the way that he like lets you know like you're not alone, and the way that he keeps us through our darkest times. Like, I don't know, I just think that for that, even like if you had a best friend right here beside you, like, would you want people mocking your best friend, like the one that like saved your life and everything, or would you be like, what the, you know? So it can be the same thing for that too. Like when you know Jesus like that, it's like, I don't think I want you mocking
yeah,
my guy.
Yeah, I do think for people who have not experienced what it's like to be with Jesus, mm-hmm. I agree. Like they don't understand. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that I don't take personal umbrage to somebody mocking Christ. I'm just saying, like, what's really going on in my heart is like, man, these people have no idea. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When he came down here, he was meek and mild because he wanted to accomplish redemption, but he's a man of war, the scripture says. So that's mm-hmm. always been my thing. Like, I just want people to understand, like, this is who you're dealing with when you're talking about this man. Mm-hmm. I get real ugly, really quickly.
My son actually enjoyed the encounter, and once in a while talks about it like it happened yesterday. My question: could my dad have asked to meet the grandson he didn't get to?
Absolutely, he could have. I mean, look, you have Moses and Elijah in a post-mortem situation on the Mount of Transfiguration. Mm-hmm. That happened. It happened one time. There's also, Saul coming back one time in the Old Testament. So if a person says, "Oh yeah, this happens every week," I'd probably be like, either you're lying or this is not good. But if it happened one time, and the result is that the person believes in Christ and holds to Christ, then yeah, I'm not going to say that was from a demon. If anyone shot on my boy when he wasn't around, but I'm popping that nigga. Yeah. Yeah. And Jesus said something again terrifying in John. He said, "You dishonor me," and then he says, "But there is one who seeks my honor." Mm-hmm. So okay. All right. And we're Trinitarians. God is a father, so I think it's in like Second Opinions where God says, "Fuck around and find out."
Jeez, babe.
It honestly scares me. Honestly does. I'm like, these people have no understanding. They don't get it. They don't understand terror. They don't understand fear. Y'all don't get it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm usually quiet when people do some dumb shit like that. Mm-hmm. People say weirdo shit about Jesus. Like, I'm usually quiet. I'm like, Lord, he didn't mean it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes he'd be like, how you know he didn't mean it? I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not going to say nothing. Because I don't want you mad at me.
What are your thoughts on Michael the Archangel being Jesus?
I think it's extremely possible, if not probable.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, he's the prince over Israel. I had a Seventh-day Adventist friend that explained it, and I said, you know what? He said, look, when God in the Old Testament is interacting with humans, he shows up like a human, so they have a point of reference. Mm-hmm. Right? He said, the angels are just as far away from God's glory as we are, because they're created. There's an infinite gap between him and God. So when God shows up to talk to angels, how is he going to show up? Like one of them. Because they need a point of reference just like we need a point of reference.
Yeah, but they go before his throne. So you think he shows himself as an angel when he comes before the throne?
I think that their perceptive abilities, right, are limited just like ours are. And so when we imagine God, we automatically have a humanoid appearance, right? Because that's all we have as a point of reference.
I mean, that's the point of reference he gives us, too.
So, from a Kantian perspective, none of us are seeing the thing in itself, including angels. They're not seeing the thing in itself either.
I guess I always thought that they saw him. But yeah, how would they be able to see him in all this glory?
They see a mediated version of God, just like we see a mediated version of God.
Right, because if we're for a little while lower than the angels,
correct,
then that means when we're above them, that's when we're going to see him in his glory. That means, that's interesting.
Seeing the face of God is an eternal project.
Yeah.
Right, because seeing the face of God...
It's an eternal revelation.
Right, it means to see God as he truly and ultimately is. That's why he said, you can see my back, but you can't see my face.
Yeah.
So, that's how I'd answer that question.
That's why eternity is so long, because it would take all of eternity to reveal God to us. There is no end. There is no, it will go on forever. That's so interesting, because when I was praying for Sunny, and I prayed that Michael the Archangel would come to visit him. I had no idea I was asking for Jesus.
Well, I mean, look.
I just felt like I was supposed to pray it, so I did.
So
whatever this means.
Joshua runs into the commander of the host, right? And when you get to Revelation, it says Michael and his angels.
Yeah.
Fought the devil and his angels. Mm-hmm. So if the angel of Yahweh is the commander of the host, and then in Revelation we find that Michael is the head of the angelic army, then you'd have to say that the person that Joshua met and Michael are the same being.
That's interesting, yeah.
But the person that Joshua met was an obvious capital G divine being, because he took off his shoes and he bowed down and the angel accepted the worship. So it's obviously a divine being. And so that's where the connections get made between Michael and
what are those two verses? Or you want to tell me later? Tell me later. Well, no, people probably want it.
Well, you know that one where
I just
Joshua runs into the angel and he says, "Whose side are you on?" And he says, "Neither, because I've come to be the captain of the host of the Lord." And then he says, "Take off your shoes, where you're standing is holy ground." Is exactly what he said to Moses when he was in the burning bush. So that's a divine being. But he's the captain of the hosts. Yep. Well, that's obviously an angelic host. Mm-hmm. And so, that was Jericho, right? And Jericho was destroyed via supernatural means because they were running around things. So it's clearly he's talking about angelic intervention. Yep. So this divine angel is a leader of the host of the angels. Then you get to Revelation, it says Michael and his angels. So Michael is the leader, and so if you combine those two together, you get that. I mean, there's a lot of Reformed scholars that went in that direction.
Yeah, okay.
5 minutes, dear beautiful people. Angel sin, I agree.
Interesting. I think if it's not straight to the point of meditating or praying, what's the point? I'm thinking the Bible now just has wise words like Proverbs. Where's the spirit I want to feel?
Well, we believe that the Spirit of God authored the Word of God. And so you're not going to be able to feel the true and authentic Spirit of God if you're not engaging with the Word of God. The Scripture never tells us to meditate. It tells us to meditate on the law of the Lord, meaning meditate on Scripture. Mm-hmm. Meaning find a passage of Scripture and sit on it. Mm-hmm. And if you do that for just a week, you open up the Gospel of John and you say, I'm going to read until a line hits me. Mm-hmm. Okay? So if you're reading and then 2 minutes later a line hits you, stop reading and meditate on that line. Mm-hmm. And watch what happens at the end of day 7. I challenge you.
Mm-hmm. During that really dark period that I went through, I tried a lot of different things trying to find peace. I tried those sound baths where the noise, and when the sound was happening, I did feel a certain calm that came from the sound. I tried the meditation in the sense of try to clear your mind and just try to be because what I was really searching for was peace. And all of those things it seemed like it would be Okay, when you burn your hand and you hold the cube of ice, while you're holding the cube of ice, it feels like, oh, okay, I don't feel the pain of the burn anymore. It's feeling all right. But as soon as you let go of the ice, the burn comes back with such a fire. And that's what was happening. Like, seems like I would get like a little bit of peace while I was listening to the gonging of the sound baths or whatever, or while I was trying to sit quietly and just like take in the nature. But it didn't. It just seemed like when I left that moment, the fire of the burn came back even more, and I was less peaceful than before because I thought there was going to be some sort of release, and then there really wasn't. Nothing certainly long term that went any time past when I was sitting there in that moment. I mean, I'm a mom of 7 kids. Like, you have to come out of that moment, and when you do, there's a lot going on.
Tibetan stuff is just not very practical for...
Yeah. Right.
I'm not dissing it. It's just not practical for the world.
Yeah.
And that's one of the secrets of why the Christian religion is so successful, is because it's just a lot of very pragmatic applications to it.
Mm-hmm. But now, like, on the other side of that darkness, like, I wasn't even intending to like meditate on the word like you were saying. It was just, I started reading and I was like, wow. And like, as I was reading, like I had to just stop and think about it. And I kept like thinking about it. And like, I didn't realize how much time passed while I was doing it and just like reading those verses and thinking about all the things that they meant and all the things that it could mean. And then looking at other verses and other things like, and it was like, there was so much like calm, and it was weird because I was doing stuff, like I was, you could say, working, because I was researching, but I was like, it was so calm, like in that time. If you pump it, yep, there you go, you got it. There was like a calm, and then the peace stayed with me even when I left, and I went into the chaos of our family and, you know, cooking for everybody and doing all kinds of stuff. There was a lot going on, and I still had like that, like it carried with me and it stayed with me, where like none of those other things did. Like, I mean, I tried them. I tried them all. Well, I didn't try them all, but
I was gonna say, you didn't try them all.
I didn't try them all, but I did try some. I tried a lot of different things, trying to find some sort of reprieve when I was in that bad
How
spot.
can you be sure that when you're talking to Jesus, or let's say Luke or John or an angel of God himself, do you see their faces?
By visual sight? No. But there's like it's interesting. Okay, so I would say, I'll let you do your own answer, but I'll say, like, you know how like Tool and stuff, like what do they call it, the third eye or something like that?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's like probably some version of that, like where it's like a spiritual perception where you perceive him or you like see him, but it's not like seeing these headphones. So there is like a sight that takes place, but and an understanding or a depth of sight that, I don't know, it's different than I see that microphone or I see Vinny.
Yeah, I think the way that I look at it is that when you are in utero, somehow the baby knows who his mother is. It's very interesting because, like, I've seen so many births, and it's clear to me that the baby knows who his mother is. Mm-hmm. But the baby's actually never seen his mother. He's been inside his mother. Mm-hmm. But there's that non-physical familiarity that child has with its mother that's inexplicable. Mm-hmm. Paul said, now we see through a glass darkly. Because what's fascinating is, and this is going to dovetail into somebody else's question about the divine feminine. The scripture says, in him we live and move and have our being. And so, in that sense, God is presented as a giant womb carrying all of us, because we're in him. And we prosecute our business in the womb of God. And so, there is a connection and a female. Remember, that child is not verbal yet. But I can promise you there's a lot of communication happening between that child and its mother in that first moment when it's born. I'm not going to say directly. There are people that have had visions and manifestations and have seen Christ face to face. And what I'm saying is that's good, but the spiritual familiarity, we are natively spiritual. I'm not saying that our bodies aren't important. They are. That's why you're going to get one for all eternity, inshallah. But our native essence is spirit because God is spirit. So the first sight, the first sound, the first touch, all those are spiritual. And so I live and move and have my being inside the eternal God of the universe. And while I'm in that womb, I speak to him. And when I die, this is why people always go through the tunnel. You know, you have a little baby, and the baby also goes through a little tunnel with light at the end, right? And so when I die, I'm actually being birthed into seeing face to face. And so when you're communicating with God, you know, and he knows you. We had a person, I had met her for 20 minutes, and then 20 minutes later we baptized her, like that night. And then when we looked into her journal, she was quoting Bible passages.
And she'd never read the Bible.
She was quoting biblical themes.
Wasn't from a Bible family, none of that.
She had no idea that she was interfacing with God on a really deep level. Mm-hmm. But after she was born again, she said, "Oh, mm-hmm. Wait," mm-hmm. and that's what it's like. Prior to people's conversion, there's an experience of a deeper "oh," and then when you die, then you get delivered, and the midwives are around, and everybody's happy, and you're a little confused, and you're looking around, and the place is glorious, sure, but the first thing you're gonna do is, "Where's Mom?" And then it's really interesting because it says that he was in the beginning with God. You know, in the beginning was the Word with God, the Word was God. It actually says that the literal word for with God is bosom. And Christ was on the bosom, the breast of the Father. And then later on in the Gospel of John, you see John resting on the breast of Christ, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously you're supposed to see the correlation there. And so, yeah, when I'm finally born, I'm gonna get put back on the breast of the Father, and he's gonna hold me and say, "It's okay. This is your new place. Everybody loves you." That type of thing. But when you're a baby, you know, you hear the voice of your mother in the womb, right? But it's not until you're born that you associate the vocalization of your mother with the physical appearance of her face. And you go, "Oh, that's who's been talking to me the entire time." So I've never met a person who converted to Christianity where God wasn't already with them. They just didn't have the insight to understand what was going on. Mm-hmm. They were hearing the echoes of their parent, but they didn't know it was their parent. So, and that also goes into why Proverbs chapter 8 has this character called wisdom. And wisdom says, was that the Lord possessed me at the beginning of his way. And then wisdom just goes on and on about I was eternally, he's actually talking about dancing before God. That's what the text says. It literally means that he was dancing. You know that little circular dance that they do?
Yeah.
That's the word that's used.
Wisdom was doing
to speak of wisdom dancing around God because he's exuberant. She is exuberant about what God is creating. And wisdom says, "I was daily his delight." And then he talks about rejoicing in the children of men. And so there is obviously a John chapter 1 sort of perichoresis, where the members of the Trinity are interfacing with each other. That's a clear, if you're a New Testament person, you go, "Oh, that's Jesus." The problem is that wisdom is in the feminine in that text. And a lot of Christians have a problem with that, which absolutely makes no sense because Adam is called the image of God, and we know that Eve was inside of Adam when he was created. And that men and women are both in the image of God. Mm-hmm. And because of that, women also image God. And there are times in the scripture where God presents himself in a feminine context. And wisdom in Proverbs 8 is clearly one of them. Mm-hmm. The book of Proverbs, wisdom is the pinnacle of righteousness. And unfortunately for many of our friends who are not fans of women, it's women all through the text. Mm-hmm. Wisdom is a woman all through the book of Proverbs. And so, and Jesus quotes. He says, I'll mock at your destruction because when I called, you didn't answer. And Jesus says, where I'm going, you cannot come. Very much alluding to the words of Wisdom in Proverbs. So Wisdom in Proverbs is not a pushover. She calls out in the streets. She says, come on, how long will you do this to yourself, blah, blah, blah. But again, she's also not somebody you should fuck around with. Because you fuck around with her long enough, she's going to say, cool, I'll mock your destruction. When you call, when you call, I won't answer because when I called, you didn't answer. So again, it's this kindness and severity of God. But yeah, that's different. And Paul says it explicitly. Christ is for us wisdom. So that's what I'll say. I'll say that there is a masculine and a feminine to God. That's obvious because men and women are both created in the image of God. Adam is called the image of God, and Eve is inside of Adam at that time. So it's clear. And so, yeah, I'd answer it that way. Dance that. Who does it? Sorry, I might have missed it. The wisdom in Proverbs 8 dances with joy around God, because she's overjoyed at the way that He creates and His excellence in everything that He does.
Look at XBM lying.
Hey Vin, the answer is my son at 18 now has no doubt about Jesus because he still remembers the encounter like it was yesterday. My son isn't believed except by myself and his mom, sadly. Well, then I would say that it was from God because your son is now 18. He's an adult now, and he's got no doubt because he had that experience and it's keeping him on the track. Then it was from God. Simple. You know a tree by its fruits. And if that thing happened a decade ago or whenever it happened, and it had a significant impact on him, and it's keeping him on the straight path, then we could say, yes, it's from God. Now all you do is encourage him to not look for apparitions of the people who've gone ahead of us. His business now is to make sure that he can meet up with his grandfather forever, with the Jesus who hung out with him in the backyard, right? That's how I'd handle it. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's demonic, it didn't happen, blah, 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 blah. Man, I don't got the right to say that. I wasn't there. I don't know your son. All I can tell you is that Scripture says a tree's known by its fruit. And that this universe is a lot stranger and weirder than we believe. And if you look at the way that Jesus interacts with people, He never does the same thing twice. Never. And the reason is because He loves us so much, He wants a story with each of us. So that's a story that those two have that nobody else in the universe has had or will ever have. That's for them. And I've got a lot of stuff that's just for me. So I have no jealousy for your son. Good for him. Vin, you missed my question. Okay, my son at 18 has no doubt about Jesus.
We read that one.
Because he still remembers the encounter like it was yesterday. Sadly, Vin, and sorry, my son isn't interested in going to church.
No,
Sadly,
it was Hunter's message.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm still reading Kristen Case.
Oh, okay.
He's not interested in going to church. Only myself and his mom believe him. I guess my question is more, could my dad have asked to meet his grandson? Well, yeah, I mean, he could have. And look, if he's not going to church now, but he still believes in Jesus, that's still a good thing. I wouldn't trouble your son too much about church. What I would do, though, is encourage him to stay in the Word, because if he does stay in the Word, then he's gonna realize his need for church eventually. And then, however that takes form, because it's not always showing up to a certain place on Sunday. Re-ask your question.
I don't know what trauma release meditation is. What is that?
I mean, I'm a simple guy, Zhao. You know what I'm saying? I'm not very layered. I mean, to me, it's like, sure, I would just give the same answer. I'd say get in the Word. There's a lot in the Word about trauma and fear and things like that. We have characters who've been traumatized or whatever. Get in the Word and pray the Word back to God. That's happened to me a lot. You know, I open a book and I say, oh, this guy was mistreated by his parents. There was obvious and apparent favoritism, and he felt unloved. And I was able to, I remember one specific time, there was one specific person in the Bible where that happened with. And I had probably the most esoteric and deepest spiritual experiences in my life was by that practice, where I took a particular character in a story, and I related so much to dude's pain, and so I would read the text, pray it back to God. This happened with this guy. This happened with me. Da 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 da. And then I started getting revelation that was absolutely insane, and I ate that revelation probably for 5 or 6 years. Like, honestly. And I'm being intentionally vague because I don't want people to copy the exact scenario and be like, it didn't work for me, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, if you get that Bible is so powerful, people have no idea. It is a book that reads you. And I have had insane experiences by moving back and forth between meditation, prayer, and reading, meditation, prayer, and reading, meditation, prayer, and reading. And then it talks about meditating on the law of the Lord day and night. And I remember memorizing certain passages and just repeating them over and over again, and the spiritual strength and the spiritual XYZ is what I call it, because like we don't have words for it yet. It's impossible to describe. And that's why like I always challenge people. What do you have to lose? It's just 22 chapters. Read 1 chapter a day in the Gospel of John, and then see if it's all bullshit. If you get to the end of it, it's all bullshit, then cool. But trauma release meditation, meditation for enlightenment, any type of meditation, I think it's great as long as we're tapping into the correct source. And Jesus of Nazareth is the correct source.
That's right.
And there are no other sources that are given to men by which we must be saved from ourself, from our psychologies, from our past, from the evil we do, from the evil done to us. There are none. It's Jesus, and that's it. Nothing Christian about showing Moloch in the background. Well, this is an owl, and I think the owl is really, really cool. It's also an 8K.
It's also somebody said it was Drake's metal album we just got done reviewing.
Yeah, we just got that
XBM.
Yeah. All right, guys. We got time for one more question.
Oh my god, baby, you just said it was 10 minutes.
Yeah, one more question. Right?
No, I mean, you can do one more question. I'm just saying, when you say 10 minutes,
what are you talking
the
about?
crowd was right.
What are you talking about?
It's been longer than 10 minutes, and now you're like, one more question.
You say Drake is a black metal icon, he said. I don't know if I'd say Drake is a...
No, they were saying Drake had a black metal album.
Yeah, but XBM just said that Drake, he's a black metal icon. He's just playing her. He's just kidding like Jason. I'm just kidding like Jason. Unless you're going to do it. One more question, dear listeners. One more question. I don't even know, like, I came out, you were asleep. What? It like, your body's just, like, on a weird clock, bruh.
I came out.
Shout out to all the Twitterati. Shout out to all the Twitterati, by the way. Moloch the Owl, the band probably venerates it. Not the Nelly... Oh, yeah, he did get the Nelly quote. Okay. What are you laughing at?
Nothing, babe.
I mean, obviously you're laughing at something. What you laughing at?
Well, I mean, I've seen you in different groups of people.
Yeah.
And it's always like the same, like they say it, they all say the same thing, they just say it different ways. So it's like somebody earlier was like, basically when Vin says 10 minutes, that's equivalent to 45 minutes.
Oh, God.
And then the other group that we were hanging around, they'd be like, they'd called it Vin time.
Right. The reason I blacklisted The Shining was because the lead singer explicitly stated that he makes music to destroy people. So that's that. Do I think Jesus will return in our lifetime? No. Thanks for the story. I feel a presence and I feel the wisdom and love coming to me, but I can't say who it actually is talking to me. It's your mother / father / God. That's what I'm talking about. And what I'll say to you is, the next time you feel that, or if you're still feeling the remnants of that, stop whatever you're doing and just engage with that. That's all it means. That's all it is. There's a lot of things about spirituality that you will see. Oh, that was been going on the whole time. Because, people tell me, I found God, like the scripture says, you'll seek me and find me when you seek me with your whole heart. I will be found by you, says the Lord. And so a lot of times with seeking, it's just, hey, if you're real, show up. And then he says, okay, I'm showing up. Okay, so it's a ping pong match. So he just moved the chips to your table. You got to do something with that. And the more you do that, the more those things will be frequent, and then you'll find yourself in a sea. You'll find that he never stops haunting you. Ever. That there's always, I always do it like this. There's always like somebody right here, and it's so hard to explain. But it's just this, it's like a pillar, just there all the time.
There's also a holistic approach to the pursuit of God. So because we are body, soul, and spirit, the intention of your body, soul, and spirit in the direction of God. So body-wise, you do something physical to get, you know what I mean? Like you open up the Word of God, you read that. The soul, like allowing it, like meditating on it, that like gets it inside of you, like really getting it into yourself instead of just like reading it and letting, like when you read a chunk and you're like, I don't even know what that just said. Like not that, like read it and like let it enter you, let it change you in ways. And then the spirit is like that pursuit of like, I'm trying to get to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, Jesus Christ himself. And then the dedicated or the dedication to that intention, like the intention of meeting with God with that holistic approach, like just going in that direction and not giving up on it. It's like if we could pursue God with the same intensity that some of us have sought after the things that destroy us, then we would have him. Some of our sin is relentless, and we think about it even when we don't want to. So, that's what I would say.
What do you think about Neanderthals from a biblical perspective, not being fully man, but perhaps being in the image of God? I had a friend, a semi-famous Catholic friend, who said he wondered if the Cain and Abel story was about how we took out the Neanderthals. I don't, here's the other thing, is that when we say not fully human, what we're talking about are DNA classifications. And I am not sure that God classifies people that way. So I'm not sure that God doesn't consider Neanderthals to be human, fully human. You see what I'm saying? There's nothing biblically where it talks about, hey, your DNA is what determines whether or not you're an image bearer of God. So, I am not certain that Neanderthals do not count as human in God's economy. Just because they have DNA variants and things like that, and at the human level, we say that they're not fully human, I'm not certain that God looks at it that way. See what I'm saying? So, I am not sure. All right, you beautiful people, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you for all the questions. I said 10 minutes ago that we'd have 10 minutes, and I landed exactly on the dot. So
did you really?
No, of course not. It was like
I was like, I really thought it was a lot longer than that.
Minutes. Thank you guys very much. Shout out to all the Twitter heads. Most of our people today were listening from Twitter, so shout out to y'all. We will see you guys very